Chapter 1199. Ning Fan killed the corpse slave king, but he was not happy. This time, he had made sufficient observations to deal with the corpse slave king. It could be said that he had planned before taking action. According to his prediction, after the inverse sea horizon merged with the sword theory of the yin-yang five swords, its power would increase tremendously due to the superposition of its supernatural powers. However, it would still take at least 400 breaths to kill the corpse slave king. Even if there was a large error in the prediction, the error should not be so large. But he was wrong, ridiculously wrong. After inverse seas boundless merged with the yin and yang sword theory, the killing effect of the corpse slave king far exceeded his expectations. It only took him 9 breaths to kill the corpse slave king. The explosion of the seawater was not part of his plan. Killing the corpse slave king in 9 breaths was also not part of the plan. The world drowning bottle had been broken once again, so it was even more impossible for this to be part of the plan. Ning Fan did not like this kind of battle that was full of surprises and beyond his control. If I hadn't prepared an escape route in advance, I'm afraid I would have suffered a great loss, Ning Fan sighed. At this moment, his entire body was covered with wounds and bloodstains. Some of the wounds were badly mutilated while others were burnt. Some of the wounds were so deep that even his bones could be seen. Lei Zhi's injuries were more severe than Zhong Yu's. Black smoke rose from his body and his limbs were severely charred. He couldn't even move. If it wasn't for his weak aura, others would have thought that he was a pile of burning charcoal instead of a person. Since old ancestor Lei Zhi had temporarily lost his ability to move, Ning Fan had no choice but to carry him on his back and run through the teleportation passageway of the 6 paths of teleportation technique. In order to capture Hua Hua, the queen of the Light Ant clan, Ning Fan had made 2 preparations beforehand. Firstly, he had secretly summoned the underworld ghost flower in the void and caught Kabixiong, a fusion quasi-sage, off guard. Secondly, he had opened up a 6 paths teleportation gate in the void beforehand. Once the situation was not right, he could teleport away at any time. It could be said that it was the 6 portals that had been opened beforehand that had saved him. When Ni Hai Wu Ya's seawater exploded, the heaven and earth momentum and space density of the surrounding continents were severely altered. Yin and yang were reversed, and the universe was in chaos. This kind of situation was impossible to occur under normal circumstances, but it really did happen. At the moment of the explosion, Patriarch Lei Zhi tried to escape using his escape technique, but he failed one after another. At that time, yin and yang were reversed, and the universe was in chaos. The cultivator's connection with the world was completely severed by the explosion. A fish without water cannot swim forward, and so is Xiao. Patriarch Luiz could not use any escape technique in the Chen Kun world where yin and yang were reversed. Not only old ancestor Lei Zhi, even Ning Fan could not open the second teleportation portal when the explosion started. Fortunately, Ning Fan had already prepared a teleportation gate of the 6 paths of reincarnation in advance. He was just afraid that something unexpected would happen. Caution is the parent of safety. The ancients did not lie to me. Fellow Taoist Ning, I finally understand. Why did you apologize to me? You are tricking me. Old ancestor Lei Zhi's face was filled with grief. He was truly the most foolish fool in the world. Why did he follow Ning Fan's side? Why did he want to protect Ning Fan? Did Ning Fan need his protection? Would someone who could capture a quasi-saint in 10 breaths and kill a corpse slave king in 9 breaths need his protection? He didn't help Ning Fan at all. Instead, he almost blew himself up. Just the thought of the earth-shattering explosion made Patriarch Lei Zhi sweat profusely. The heavens took pity on him. If he was completely involved in that kind of explosion, even if he did not die, he would lose his physical body completely. If it wasn't for Ning Fan who brought him into the 6 paths of reincarnation at the critical moment, he definitely would not have been reduced to a charcoal man. Thinking of this, charcoal patriarch, no, Lui's patriarch felt a little guilty. It was also because Ning Fan brought an extra person with him that they were 1 step slower. In the end, Ning Fan was implicated by him and suffered a certain degree of impact from the explosion, causing him to be severely injured, old ancestor Leja could imagine that if Ning Fan faces the corpse slave king alone, even if something unexpected happens, he could definitely escape unscathed. This young man is smart. He won't fight a battle that he is not confident in. Didn't you see that he had already prepared an escape route from the beginning? If it wasn't for him, Ning Fan's injuries could have been completely avoided. Not even a strand of his hair would have been burnt. Forget it. I won't blame you anymore. No matter what, you got injured in order to save me. Old ancestor Leja sighed weakly. Ning Fan's action of sacrificing himself to save him had actually touched his Dao heart, which had been cold for a long time. I can't hear you clearly. At this moment, Ning Fan's ears were filled with buzzing noises. How could he hear the voice of old ancestor Leja who was on his back? His expression was solemn. He was running at full speed in the passageway, racing against time. The passageway behind him could no longer withstand the impact of the explosion and began to collapse. He must rush to the other end of the 6 paths of reincarnation before the passageway completely collapses. But there's one thing that I can't figure out. The explosion you made killed the corpse slave king in just 9 breaths. Did it not seem to be that strong? What I mean, not that your explosion isn't strong. Old ancestor Leja's ears were also ringing incessantly. He could not hear Ning Fan's voice, but he still asked the question in his mind as if he was talking to himself. Then, he tragically bit his tongue that was burnt to a crisp. Crack, his tongue was bitten off, however. It was no wonder that old ancestor Leja was puzzled, because the explosion that Ning Fan caused was really strange. It was true that the power of the explosion was very strong, but it was only twice as strong as the boundless sea. It was just enough to threaten the life of a first-grade quasi-saint like old ancestor Leja. However, it might not necessarily be able to kill him. Even old ancestor Leja could not kill him with 100% certainty. However, it only took him 9 breaths to kill the corpse slave king, which had hundreds of times more blood essence than old ancestor Leja. It was as if the explosion that Ning Fan created could cause hundreds or even thousands of times more damage to the corpse slave king. I can't hear you clearly. Ning Fan still could not hear what old ancestor Leja said. He also did not know that old ancestor Leja was unlucky enough to have bitten off his tongue. Bean friend, you're really crafty. You actually left a pot of teleportation stealing beans. Old ancestor Leja said vaguely. I don't understand. Ning Fan's ringing in his ears was slightly better, but this time, he could not understand what old ancestor Leja was talking about. Only a few teleportation stealing beans. Where will it be? Old ancestor Leja said worriedly. The restriction on spirit sense in the 12th floor of the Earth Abyss was too heaven-defying. Without the guidance of spirit sense, any long-distance teleportation could only be done randomly. It was impossible to choose the destination. If he is lucky, he might end up in a safe place where there were no enemies. If he is unlucky, he might even end up in the royal palace of the Light Ant clan. I don't understand. Ning Fan still could not understand what old ancestor Leja was talking about. Coincidentally, Ning Fan was also worried about the same thing at this moment. Even though he could open a portal of the 6 paths in advance, he could not control where it would end up. I'm seriously injured now. If I end up in the middle of the Light Ant clan's encirclement, it will be bad. Speaking of which, why did the sword principles of the 5 yin-yang swords cause such an unforeseen event? I can understand a little bit, but there are still many things that I don't understand. It seems like when the 2 types of divine abilities fused together, it produced some kind of violent change that I can't control. Because of that, I was still injured even though I was confident that I could kill the corpse slave king. Besides, because of the sudden explosion, the production of the undying ghost soldiers was also affected. This was what made Ning Fan the most unhappy. In his plan, after killing the corpse slave king, he should find a safe place to produce the undying ghost soldiers. But look at the result. That uncontrollable explosion injured even the underworld ghost flower. Similarly, the other 3 undying ghost soldiers were also injured. One should know that the undying ghost soldiers and the underworld ghost flower also had the characteristics of the undying creatures. Hence, they were also restrained by the life executioner sword. If Ning Fan could perfectly control the endless reverse sea which had fused with the sword principles of the Life Executioner sword, the underworld ghost flower could avoid part of the seawater which had fused with the sword principles. Unfortunately, forget about controlling it, the explosion was completely out of control. Under such circumstances, even the roots of the underworld ghost flower were injured. If it wasn't for Ning Fan who immediately recalled the underworld ghost flower and the undying ghost soldiers, forget about producing the corpse slave king and the undying ghost soldiers, he might even lose the 3 ghost soldiers including the soul absorbing tree. No matter how the corpse slave king attacked, the 3 ghost soldiers could not be killed. If Ning Fan made a mistake and killed them himself, that would be a real joke. The corpse slave king is just too strong. The success rate of using it to produce the ghost soldiers is already extremely low. Now that the underworld ghost flower's roots are damaged, I'm afraid the success rate will be reduced again. The production of the undying ghost soldiers must be completed within 24 hours after the death of the ghost soldiers. It's almost impossible to fully recover the injuries of the underworld ghost flower in just 24 hours. It seems like the production of the undying ghost soldiers this time is really going to fail again. Ning Fan heaved a sigh. All of a sudden, he put away all the distracting thoughts in his mind. His eyes turned solemn and vigilant. The teleportation exit of the 6 paths of teleportation technique was right in front of him. He was not sure where the teleportation point would be this time. If the teleportation point was within the encirclement of the light ant quasi-saints, he might have to fight with his life on the line, an ancient sky made of flesh and blood. A world of flames made of flesh and blood. This was a place that had been forgotten by time. All of a sudden, a towering and gigantic door appeared out of thin air in the sky of flesh and blood. At the next moment, a severely injured young man carrying a charcoal man on his back rushed out of the gigantic door and stepped into this world of flesh and blood. At the next moment, blazing flames burst out from the inside of the gigantic door. Then, the door was devoured by the flames and turned into ashes. That was close. A drop of sweat mixed with ashes appeared on old ancestor Lei Zhe's forehead. That was close. Ning Fan heaved a sigh of relief. If he was half a step slower, he would have been dragged into the teleportation and collapsed. Where is this place? Are we still on the 12th floor? Ning Fan asked. Not really. Not really. Not really. Old ancestor Lei Zhe observed the surrounding terrain and gave a conclusion. This was definitely not the 12th floor. There was no place on the 12th floor that had such an environment of flesh and blood. There was another reason that made old ancestor Lei Zhe very certain of his conclusion. It was the geomagnetism. The geomagnetism could interfere with a cultivator's spirit sense. However, the strength of the geomagnetism could also be used to determine the depth of the space in the light ancestor's earth abyss. Judging from the strength of the geomagnetism, this world of flesh and blood should be a few times deeper than the 12th floor of the earth abyss. However, didn't the earth abyss of the light ancestor only have 12 floors? The 12th floor should be the lowest level of the earth abyss. How could there be other places that are so much deeper than the 12th floor? I don't understand. Similarly, Ning Fan was also confused. However, what old ancestor Lei Zhe said was what Ning Fan could not understand. Forgive him for his low intelligence. He really could not understand this kind of strange language that was spoken with a broken tongue. Fortunately, Ning Fan also knew how to determine his current location based on the strength of the geomagnetism. After investigating, Ning Fan was also surprised. Judging from the depth of the geomagnetism, he was currently in a space that was even lower than the 12th floor of the earth abyss. The surrounding world of flesh and blood gave Ning Fan an extremely familiar feeling. Yes, it was the nest of the Ant Lords. The nest of the Ant Lords that he destroyed last time was also in a similar environment. However, the environment this time gave him an unprecedented sense of uneasiness. It seemed to be countless times more dangerous than the nest of the Ant Lords that he encountered last time. The information that I gathered at the last minute didn't include this place. It's still unknown whether this place is really another nest of the Ant Lords. After all, I was attacked by the powerful tentacles inside when I just passed by the nest of the Ant Lords last time. If this is really the nest of the ant lords, why didn't the tentacles attack me? The chi that this place gave Ning Fan was very ominous. This place was also very safe. He could not see a single enemy. Ning Fan began to investigate the dangers of this place. After a while, he realized that other than the fire elemental energy that was stronger than the 12th floor of the earth abyss, there did not seem to be anything else that was worth paying attention to. What was even stranger was that for some reason, this world of flesh and blood seemed to be able to cut off the surveillance of the red name above his head. The feeling of being targeted by the experts of the Light Ancestor clan actually disappeared. Cough, cough, cough. Old Ancestor Lei Zhe suddenly coughed violently, coughing out mouthfuls of golden blood mixed with soot. Once a cultivator reaches the immortal Emperor realm, the origin of their blood would turn golden. Now that old Ancestor Lei Zhe even coughed out golden blood, it was obvious that he could no longer suppress the injuries in his body. Seeing this, Ning Fan no longer had the leisure to investigate where this place was. He had to help old Ancestor Lei Zhe treat his injuries. Considering that there might be unknown dangers in this place, Ning Fan released the Black Devil, Afro, Tao Annihilation Lightning Nascent Soul and the Ancestral Lightning Sparrow to protect him. Even the Ancestral Lightning Sparrow came out to protect him? The Tao Annihilation Lightning Nascent Soul riding the Ancestral Lightning Sparrow was his strongest form. The Ancestral Lightning Sparrow had completely become his mount. Master, you're injured. Why is it so serious? Quickly drink a mouthful of the Black Devil's blood to treat your injuries. When the Black Devil saw that Ning Fan was losing blood all over his body, his cold face was instantly filled with anxiety. He rolled up his sleeves and stood on his tiptoes, placing his wrist in front of Ning Fan. He actually wanted to let Ning Fan bite his wrist. The soul blood of an adult 9 raccoon was a heaven-defying item that could prolong one's life. Even if it was just ordinary blood, it also had a very nourishing effect. Consuming it would allow one to obtain a large amount of life force, which was very beneficial for healing injuries. Ning Fan could not help but laugh. He patted the Black Devil's little head and comforted her. You're really a silly cat. It's just a flesh wound. You can heal it with ordinary methods. If I bite you just because of this injury, it won't be worth it at all. It's not good to let the little cat use its blood to treat its master's injuries. People who truly love their pets would never expect their pets to give them anything in return. Master is right. It's my fault for not thinking it through. My blood should only be used at a critical moment. It should only be used when Master needs it the most. The Black Devil nodded her head as if she understood Ning Fan's words. She had the resolve to sacrifice her life for Ning Fan at any time. That's not what I meant. Forget it. Ning Fan pinched the Black Devil's little face affectionately and sighed. This little cat was good at everything, but she was too blindly loyal. After all these years, even though he had raised the little cat to have the temperament of a little girl, she still stubbornly adhered to her nature. That was something that could not be changed no matter what. The Black Devil's face slightly reddened. Even though she had warmed Ning Fan's bed a long time ago, she still felt a little shy. It was fine if he touched the cat's body, but the human's body was a little, go. Keep an eye on the surroundings. This place gives me a very unusual feeling. Even though I can't see any danger for the time being, it could also be that the danger in this place has completely exceeded our understanding. If that's the case, then it will be really troublesome. The Black Devil will obey Master's orders. As long as it's Master's order, the Black Devil will do anything. The Black Devil received the order and immediately led her army of subordinates to guard Ning Fan. Under her request, Ning Fan even let out the quasi-emperor puppet He Xiaolian, which he had not seen for a long time, to join the patrol team. This made Aphrodite very envious. She could see that Ning Fan really doted on the Black Devil. That kind of doting had nothing to do with love. It did not even include the complexity of interpersonal relationships. With the little cat and Aphrodite guarding him, Ning Fan could more or less feel at ease. Old Ancestor Lei Zhe's injuries were very serious. Fortunately, Ning Fan had a lot of 9 Revolution Golden pills and Emperor-grade pills. When the bottles of healing pills were placed in front of him, he was dazzled. After consuming a few bottles of pills, The carbonization of his body was obviously reduced. Even his broken tongue had grown back. Now that his tongue had grown back, his injuries began to heal. Now, he could speak clearly and fluently. Looking at the dazzling array of pills, he could not help but exclaim in surprise. This is the Emperor-grade pill, the blood-thought pill of the dark world. Isn't this the forbidden pill of the dark race in the Eastern Heaven? How did fellow Taoist get it? Of course, I snatched it from the dark race. Ning Fan was speechless at the old ancestor Leisha's reaction. However, he did not tell the old ancestor Leisha about it because he was afraid that it would frighten him. Attacking a secret race single-handedly does seem a little shocking. It's actually the Divine Crow Wound Healing Pill. Even though it's just a gold-grade pill, it's even more effective than many 9 Revolution Emperor-grade pills when it comes to healing burns. I've seen the recipe of this pill before. It requires a few types of medicinal ingredients which can only be found under the World River. It also requires the flesh and blood of the Divine Crow race to concoct it. Due to the limitation of the ingredients, it's very difficult to see the finished product of this pill in the Age of Chaos. How did fellow Taoist get the ingredients? Of course, I went to the bottom of the World River and picked up the flesh and blood of the blood god Gung Wu. Alright. Ning Fan did not plan to tell the old ancestor Leisure about it. This is the Tai Heavenly Capital Pill. It said that this pill is the most precious treasure of the Eastern Heaven's godly void pavilion. There are only 3 of them in total. But why do you have 2 of them? What's your relationship with the godly void pavilion? Don't tell this old man that stingy Xiang Hezi is actually generous enough to hand over such a precious pill to you? Senior Xiang is a cheapskate? I don't believe it. This is the 12 Jade Pavilion pills. It's the secret pill of the Southern Heaven Calamity Clan. You actually have it. Calamity Clan? Oh, I think he killed a few immortal emperors of the Southern Heaven Calamity Clan during the monarch conferral ceremony. This is the Great Return True Pill. This is a pill that I can't even name. What kind of pill is this? Alright. Ning Fan could not recognize all of his pills. Fortunately, he could communicate with all things in the world. By asking about the pills, he could answer the old ancestor Leish. It turned out that those pills that he could not name were obtained from the treasure vault of the Black Fate sect. It was unknown which force old Wu Ba and his disciples had extorted them from Ning Fan's point of view. Healing pills were just healing pills. Their purpose was just to heal one's injuries after consuming them. It was not a big deal. However, the old ancestor Leisha did not think so. He would think more about the reason why Ning Fan had so many powerful pills. The origin of these pills was basically from the top forces in the Age of Chaos. Since Ning Fan had so many powerful pills at the same time, the mysterious aura around him seemed to have thickened. Fellow Taoist, are you really not an ancient great cultivator? The old ancestor Leisha began to doubt Ning Fan's identity again. This time, Ning Fan really did not bother to disguise himself as an ancient great cultivator. I don't believe it. Ning Fan no longer talked nonsense with the old ancestor Leish. Seeing that the old ancestor Leish's healing process was on the right track, he began to consume the pills to heal himself. Even though his injuries were not light, he was able to avoid the attacks that were aimed at his vital parts. After consuming a large number of pills and using them together with his powerful healing techniques, more than half of his injuries were healed in less than 8 hours. As for the rest of his injuries, he did not have the time to heal them. There were only less than 8 hours left for him to create the corpse slaves and ghost soldiers. Even though the chances are slim, I still have to give it a try. But before I create the ghost soldiers, I need to heal the underworld ghost flower. However, how do I heal the underworld ghost flower after it's injured? I'm not good at spiritual plants. My knowledge of a unique plant like the underworld ghost flower is even more limited. If that's the case, what should I do in order to... Why don't I ask the underworld ghost flower directly? Hence, in front of the old ancestor Leish, Ning Fan summoned the underworld ghost flower again. Then, like a lunatic, Ning Fan began to chat with the flower. Of course, he was not a lunatic. However, in the old ancestor Leish's eyes, Ning Fan's current behavior really resembled a lunatic's. The old ancestor Leija's mouth was wide open in shock. In a trance, he suddenly felt that Ning Fan's lunatic behavior was very similar to another old lunatic. Very similar. When the Yin and Yang sect was at its peak, wasn't there also an old lunatic in the sect who considered himself to be a plum wife and a crane son? That old lunatic was called the Yin and Yang sage. He took Plum as his wife and a crane as his son. However, that crane betrayed him in the end. The old ancestor Leija suddenly felt tears welling up in his eyes. From Ning Fan's lunatic behavior, he saw the shadow of the Yin and Yang sage. He also saw the continuous succession of lunatics in the Yin and Yang sect. The Yin and Yang sect really had not stopped. His original intention of giving up everything to protect Ning Fan was indeed correct. Even though he did not really have the ability to protect Ning Fan. So that's how it is. It turns out that you only need to absorb the flesh and blood of experts as nutrients to heal your injuries quickly. The more serious your injuries are, the higher the level of the flesh and blood you need. Judging from the injuries caused by the explosion, you will need at least the flesh and blood of a second-grade quasi-saint to heal your injuries. Unfortunately, I don't have the means to get you such a high level of flesh and blood. Will a low-level flesh and blood do? If it's a low-level flesh and blood, will my recovery speed be very slow? How slow will it be? 10 years? Isn't that too long? Doesn't this mean that within 10 years, not only will the success rate of my creation of corpse slaves and ghost soldiers affect my success rate as well? Are you not mistaken? There is a huge amount of blood essence of experts hidden under this land of flames. Is it enough to heal your injuries? How strong are they? What? How is this possible? The blood of a saint. It's buried under this land of flames. This was the answer that the underworld ghost flower gave Ning Fan. It said that this land of flesh and blood that Ning Fan accidentally entered had a terrifying amount of blood of a saint. But how is this possible? There were no saints in the Age of Chaos, right? Is there really blood of a saint here? What exactly is this land of flesh and blood? While old ancestor Leija was looking at a lunatic, Ning Fan suddenly stood up and summoned the sea reverse sword, digging a hole in the ground. Old ancestor Leija did not know why Ning Fan wanted to dig a hole in the ground and what he wanted to dig. Just as he was about to ask, Ning Fan stopped digging the hole. It was because he had failed. Even with the sharpness of the sea reverse sword, it could only dig 300 zhang into the ground. Below that, the rock layer was so hard that even the sea reverse sword could not dig through it. At this moment, Ning Fan finally believed that there might be the blood of a saint buried in this land. Unfortunately, even though he knew that there was blood of a saint buried in the ground, he could not dig it out. The rock layer was too hard. What could he do? This land of flesh and blood was very likely to be the forbidden land of the Light Ant clan. He seemed to have accidentally stumbled into an extremely troublesome place. Master, something bad has happened. Black smoke that blotted out the sky appeared from the extreme east. Those black smoke are approaching this place. Obviously, they are coming for us. The black devil who was patrolling suddenly discovered something. It seems like we have been discovered. However, I don't know what the cultivation base of the intruder is. If it's a quasi-saint, Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. Even though old ancestor Leija's injuries had been stabilized, it would still take a long time for him to fully recover. Ning Fan's injuries had only healed by 50 to 60%. If the enemy is a quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan, he was afraid that he would have to fight a tough battle. Ning Fan still remembered his previous encounter in the nest of the Light Ant clan. At that time, he had a battle with the silver-armored quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan. He had a deep impression of the fact that the silver-armored quasi-saint could borrow the power of the nest to fight. If this land of flesh and blood in front of him is also a nest of the Light Ant clan, it would definitely be of a higher level than the previous nest. This was the home ground of the Light Ant clan. If he were to encounter a quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan here, he would definitely be in a disadvantageous situation. It was getting closer and closer. The rolling black smoke was moving at an extremely fast speed. In just an instant, it had arrived. As soon as the black smoke dispersed, a row of prison wagons was revealed. Around the prison wagons were hundreds of experts of the Light Ant clan who were escorting them. All of them were dressed like soldiers. Among these experts of the Light Ant clan, the weakest one was a true immortal realm expert. The one with the highest cultivation base was a female general. She was actually a quasi-saint. That female general was stepping on the black smoke. Her face was also covered by the black smoke, making it hard to see her face clearly. However, one could really see that her beautiful eyes were filled with merciless cold light. Her figure was very graceful, but it was wrapped under a big red cloak, making it hard to see her face clearly. Under the cloak, one could vaguely see the dark red scale armor she was wearing. On the cloak, there were lotus flowers of karmic fire embroidered on it. You are actually the sinners targeted by the red names of the heavens? Are you the prisoners that the high priest of the Een Mother imprisoned here? Who escorted you here? How dare you enter this place without my permission again? The branch of the high priest is looking down on me more and more. The female general said with displeasure. After seeing the red name above Ningfan's head, she seemed to have misunderstood something. She was undoubtedly a quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan, but she did not know Leisha. However, Leisha knew her. Hong Lian. She is the general of the Light Ant clan, Hong Lian. Leisha exposed the female general's identity. General Hong Lian, huh? Ningfan's eyes flashed slightly. His enemy was a quasi-saint, but she just had to be a woman. He had to admit that this was really a blessing in disguise. That is, Ningfan suddenly noticed that among the many prisoner carriages that the Light Ant clan sent to this place, one of them looked familiar. There was actually a soft mud monster in that carriage. When Ningfan saw the soft mud monster also saw Ningfan. The moment she saw Ningfan, she could not help but burst into tears. This time, she was truly touched by Ningfan. She just tried to cut off a strand of her black hair to ask Ningfan for help. However, that was just a desperate attempt. She did not expect that Ningfan would really risk his life to save her. However, Ningfan really came. When she was at her most desperate moment, he stepped on a 7-colored auspicious cloud and barged into her heart like a hero. He was her hero. She felt ashamed of her despicable actions of bullying Ningfan in the past. Why are you so nice to me? I'm just a lump of mud. You actually barged into the 13th spine of the Ant Lord just to save me. The soft mud monster cried until she turned into a lump of mud. Ningfan really wanted to tell the soft mud monster that even though he really wanted to save her, it was really just a coincidence that they met right now. Was it really okay for a little girl to be touched so easily? It turned out that after the soft mud monster was captured on the 12th floor, she was imprisoned in the most secret place in the Light Ancestors' Earth Abyss, the 13th floor. As for Ningfan, he was coincidentally teleported to this place randomly. This was the fate that the Buddhist sect talked about. It was also the law of fate that the Taoist sect talked about. Everything was decided by the heavens. So you're not a prisoner? You actually came here to rescue me? This is really interesting. This 13th spine is my territory. How dare you come here to court death? Hong Lian's beautiful eyes flashed with cold light. She did not intend to give Ningfan and his group any chance to explain themselves. She had already summoned the black smoke and attacked them. The injuries of the Netherworld Ghost Flower and the indestructible Ghost Soldier haven't recovered yet. As such, I can only fight this battle alone. Qi Ningfan's body swayed and dashed towards Hong Lian. At the next moment, the golden light of the divine spirit collided with the dark red smoke that blotted out the sky. Chapter 1200. In the Ant Clan, mothers were respected and women were valued. As a member of the Ant Clan, the Light Ant Clan also adhered to the same tradition. All the power in the clan was controlled by women. The great priestess Yin Mu, the general Hong Lian, the dethroned Emperor Hua Shi and the Empress Hua Hua. In the Light Ant Clan, the 4 women held supreme positions. No one dared to offend them. After living in luxury for many years, the 4 women had developed a sense of arrogance. Among them, the general Hong Lian was the most arrogant. Red Lotus did have the right to be proud. Her magic power was more than 14,000 calamities, and her cultivation was considered average among the first tribulation quasi-saints in the Dharma ending era. She had obtained the recognition of the ant race's primogeniture. Once she released the ant ancestral force in her body, even the high priestess of the same race would have to be wary of her. When she was young, she had obtained a great opportunity and swallowed a rare treasure. She could summon the legendary karmic fire of the Buddha sect to hurt her enemies. She was also a rare person who had cultivated the second stage of the Dharma ending era. Once the second stage of the Dharma ending era was activated, she was almost invincible among the first-level quasi-saints. Once she activated her second stage true body, she was almost invincible among first-level quasi-saints. She did have the right to be arrogant. Ning Fan's magic power was indeed shocking. However, the purity of his magic power was too low. Moreover, he was severely injured. Thus, he could only unleash about 70 to 80% of his strength at most. Thus, she really looked down on him. She had heard a little about the name of old ancestor Lei Zhe. However, his injuries were even worse than Ning Fan's. He could not even stand steadily. Thus, his threat was close to zero. As for the small fries, like Aphrodite, Black Devil, Tao Annihilation Lightning Infant and Ancestral Lightning Sparrow, they were not even quasi-saints. Thus, they were even less of a threat to her. This place was isolated from the 12th level of the Earth Abyss. Thus, she still did not know about Ning Fan's various atrocities. If she knew about Ning Fan's achievements of capturing Hua Hua alive and killing the corpse slave king with an explosion, she would certainly not dare to look down on him. Unfortunately, she did not know about it. How dare you invade the 13 spines with just these few people? I really don't know if I should praise your courage or laugh at your ignorance. The black smoke of the Tao's soul sealed the sky and locked the soul. Seeing that Ning Fan actually dared to face her head-on, Hong Lian's eyes flashed with disdain. She stopped charging forward and took a graceful step forward. Billowing black smoke rushed towards Ning Fan. Wherever the smoke and dust passed by, even the sky was dyed with a layer of strange black that could not be washed away. The light ant race was a member of the Tao soul race. This black smoke was condensed by Hong Lian using the light ant soul power in her body. It could lock onto an enemy's soul, causing them to feel dizzy and their battle prowess to decrease. In severe cases, it could even cause them to faint. As soon as they started fighting, Red Lotus did not hold back at all. Seeing the strange black smoke rushing towards him, Ning Fan activated his eternal true body without hesitation, trying to use his true body to defend against the impact of the black smoke. However, he still felt dizzy from the impact of the strange black smoke. His forward momentum came to a halt, and he even began to wobble in the sky. The black smoke seemed to have an endless resistance force. Ning Fan could not get out of the range of the black smoke at all. He was completely trapped within it. What kind of smoke is this? Even with the sturdiness of my divine spirit sea of consciousness, I still feel dizzy from the smoke. Even though it's partly because of my injuries, it's still enough to show that this smoke is extraordinary. Ning Fan was extremely surprised. If it were someone else with a slightly weaker sea of consciousness, they would probably be directly knocked out by this black smoke. With his eyesight, he could tell that the black smoke did not enchant the physical body but the soul. The ability itself was not that profound, but the principle behind it made Ning Fan's eyes light up. A bewildering smoke that specializes in injuring the soul. This technique is very suitable for cultivators who use the art of charm like me. Don't you dare hurt my master. As soon as Black Devil saw Ning Fan being attacked by the black smoke, he immediately became anxious and wanted to lend him a hand. How could he not be anxious? The enemy's aura alone was enough to tell that he was very strong. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was severely injured and his strength had been greatly weakened. Retreat. It's just some soul smoke. It's not difficult to destroy it. Ning Fan's voice came from within the billowing black smoke, stopping Black Devil from helping him. What a joke! How would Ning Fan dare to ask the Black Devil clan for help in a battle of quasi-saints like this? Even though the Black Devil clan's 9 raccoon bloodline was extremely powerful, his cultivation base was still limited after all. It would be very dangerous for him to get involved in such a battle. As a master, he was actually worried by his pet. He was a failure as a master. It won't be hard to destroy some soul smoke? Dogman, how dare you look down on my black smoke? Very good, you asked for it. Hong Lian's phoenix eyes turned cold. She was actually being looked down upon. How infuriating! Great soul smoke. With a pinch of the red lotus finger, the stun effect of the black smoke skyrocketed several times in an instant. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Caught off guard, he felt dizzy and his vision blurred. The world in front of him seemed to have double shadows. Strange. Even if ordinary demi-saints don't get knocked out by my great soul smoke, their sea of consciousness would still be damaged and they would cough out some blood. However, this young man actually withstood the great soul smoke and remained unscathed. Hong Lian was finally surprised. Naturally, it was impossible for Ning Fan to let the black smoke attack him without retaliating. Since he could not break out of the black smoke's encirclement, he might as well destroy the black smoke that covered the entire sky. The eternal true body flipped its giant hand and the sea-defying sword appeared in its hand. It slashed at the black smoke again and again. Rays of sword light in the shape of Magatama exploded within the black smoke. Boom! Each time the sword light exploded, the black smoke would fade a little. After hundreds of slashes, the black smoke that covered the entire sky was finally extinguished by Ning Fan. Could this Dao weapon be the sword of a disciple of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect? I see. No wonder a mere Dao weapon could break my great soul smoke technique. It's even better that you are a disciple of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. I have long been displeased with the sight of disciples of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Now, I have one more reason to kill you. It seems like I need to be a little more serious. Hong Lian seemed to have been angered by the name of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Her eyes became much more serious. She waved her palm and two blazing flame halberds suddenly appeared in her hands. Dao weapon, Lotus halberd. It was a Dao weapon with a pair of halberds. It gave off a powerful chi that was not any weaker than a mid-grade innate magic treasure. Obviously, Hong Lian was also a unique species as she had forged her Dao weapon into an extraordinarily powerful one. The halberds shone with purple chi. It seemed like she had consumed a large amount of heavenly Dao purple chi in order to forge them. To the arrogant Hong Lian, being willing to use her Dao weapon to fight against Ning Fan was already a sign of her overestimating him. What she overestimated was not Ning Fan himself but his identity as a disciple of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. However, Ning Fan still felt that he was being looked down upon. He had already activated his eternal true body a long time ago. However, Hong Lian did not bother to use her true body and put on an air of, I can crush your true body in my normal state. If this isn't looking down on me, what is? This lady's arrogance was obvious. Of course, considering the difference in strength between him and the enemy, Ning Fan did not mind being looked down upon by Hong Lian. The more she underestimated him, the higher the success rate of him sneak attacking her with his bewitching technique. It seems like I can make use of this lady's irritable personality. She seems to think that I'm a disciple of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Since that's the case, I'll just let her continue to misunderstand me. The Sacred Ant sect is just as it. Your Dao weapon is not as good as mine. If we fight in close combat against my weapon, I will definitely shatter your halberd within 10 moves. Unfortunately, you don't dare to do so. Ning Fan suddenly opened his mouth and provoked her. In order to sneak attack her with his bewitching technique, he naturally needed to get close to her. If he could provoke her into taking the initiative to fight him in close combat, it would certainly save him a lot of trouble. Sneak attacks are despicable, but so what? As a devil lord, do I need to care about morality? You chaotic Kuan sacred sect only know how to use your tongue. Shatter my Dao weapon within 10 moves? What arrogance! Today I, the disciple of the Sacred Ant sect, will let this person know that the prestige of my sect is not to be insulted. Hong Lian was easily enraged by Ning Fan. She actually dashed towards him and engaged him in a close-quarters combat. Today, I, the Hongjun sect, Sacred Ant sect, Hong Lian's words revealed a lot of information. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was not interested in this kind of information. He was only interested in capturing human cauldrons. Seeing that Hong Lian was already in front of him, Ning Fan swung his sword with his golden body technique and clashed with Hong Lian's halberd. Within tens of breaths, the two of them had exchanged hundreds of moves. Ning Fan was originally very confident in the battle of Dao weapons. However, the result gave him a huge shock. His ocean-defying sword actually fell into a disadvantageous position. The grade of the ocean-defying sword was obviously much higher than the lotus halberd. However, Hong Lian seemed to have an inexplicable power that could negate more than half of the ocean-defying sword's power. This is too abnormal. Fortunately, Ning Fan did not expect to kill Hong Lian with the ocean-defying sword at all. The arrogant words he said just now were just to provoke her. His bewitching technique was his trump card. He must kill Hong Lian in a single strike under the most confident situation. You dog. Didn't you say that you would shatter my Dao weapon within 10 moves? It has already been 600 moves. My Dao weapon is still intact, but your Dao weapon seems to be on the verge of collapsing. Hong Lian smiled complacently. 600 moves. 700 moves. 800 moves. When the two of them exchanged 800 moves, the ocean-defying sword actually let out a cry accompanied by Hong Lian's complacent laughter. Crack, crack, crack. It was the body of the sword that was trembling. It became a little unstable, as if it was going to break at any moment. It was not the lotus halberd itself that hurt the ocean-defying sword. Instead, it was some kind of power that existed in Hong Lian's body that caused great damage to the ocean-defying sword and restrained it. This is the first time that the ocean-defying sword is being suppressed like this. What exactly is the mysterious power in this lady's body? Why can it suppress my Dao weapon? I will naturally find out everything after I capture her. The cross-shaped halberd was suddenly activated. The area within 1,000 zhang of Ning Fan's body was instantly sealed by the cross-shaped halberd. The black cross-shaped halberd looked like two star rings that revolved around a cultivation planet, and Ning Fan was the cultivation planet that was surrounded by the star rings. The halberd could automatically activate its offensive ability. The sky sealing technique was released from the halberd more than 10 times in a breath, freezing Hong Lian on the spot and making her feel like dying. Hong Lian's complacent smile instantly froze on her face and turned into intense fear. She actually could not move. Saint Ring. It's not the Saint Ring. This is the reincarnation sealing technique. It's not. What have you done? Damn it. It turns out that you have such a technique. That's why you purposely provoked me and made me fight you in close combat. I actually fell into your trap. She began to speak incoherently. She was just easily angered, but she was not an idiot. At this moment, how could she not see that she had fallen into Ning Fan's trap? Anger. Embarrassment turned into anger. Without any hesitation, Hong Lian activated her ancestor force. The freezing effect of the cross-shaped halberd was indeed powerful, but it was not like she did not have the ability to forcefully break free from it. However, would Ning Fan give her the time to do so? A bewitching technique from his finger immediately landed on Hong Lian's body, forming countless bewitching seals inside her body. Damn it! You actually used a bewitching technique to sneak attack me. How shameless! Hong Lian's expression changed drastically. She was not really afraid of being hit by the sky sealing technique. After all, even if she did not move, it was impossible for her to be killed by Ning Fan within a short period of time. She was a quasi-Saint Realm expert after all. How could she be killed instantly? She had 100% confidence that she could activate her ancestral force to break free before Ning Fan killed her. However, Ning Fan used a despicable and shameless bewitching technique. It could not kill her or hurt her, but it could seal the flow of her magic power and the ancestral force in her body. Activating her ancestral force failed. Under the layers of bewitching seals, she seemed to no longer have the strength to resist Ning Fan's capture. You've lost. From today onwards, you are my human cauldron. Ning Fan said mercilessly. Human cauldron. So this is your real plan? Good. Very good. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. I will never forget this name. I will get back at you very soon. Hong Lian gritted her teeth in hatred as if she wanted to chew and swallow Ning Fan's name. Ning Fan did not intend to talk nonsense with Hong Lian. He raised his hand and was about to plant more bewitching seals on her body. At this moment, an unexpected change occurred. Without any warning, Ning Fan suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger. Then, his expression changed greatly as if he had noticed something. You still found me? Unfortunately, it's too late. Lotus seed clone, explode. Boom boom boom. Hong Lian's body suddenly self-destructed. The self-destruction of a quasi-saint was extremely terrifying. Ning Fan and the others who had just escaped from the corpse slave king's explosion were once again caught in the explosion. Logically speaking, a woman who was under the control of bewitching techniques would not be able to use her magic power to detonate herself. However, something strange happened to Hong Lian. She actually did not need any magic power to circulate and self-destructed herself. The sky was collapsing and the earth was cracking. The world of flesh and blood in front of them was being destroyed by the self-destruction of a quasi-saint. The explosion lasted for a long time before it subsided. When it was over, the boundless world of flesh and blood was destroyed beyond recognition. To what extent was it destroyed beyond recognition? The rock stratum in this place was unusually hard. Ning Fan could only dig 300 zhang deep with the sea-defying sword. The rock stratum below 300 zhang was something that even the sea-defying sword could not break. As the self-destruction of a quasi-saint swept across the area, the rock stratum in many places was blasted to a depth of 500 to 600 zhang. Some places where the explosion was concentrated had even blasted the rock stratum to a depth of 1,000 zhang. There were even a few places where underground water was seeping out because the rock stratum was blasted too much. That is not underground water. On the surface, the water looked very clear. However, if one uses the eyesight of a heavenly being to look at it, they would discover that there was actually a trace of indescribably faint redness hidden in the clear underground water. That was the redness of blood. It was the blood of a saint that was unimaginably diluted. The underground water in this place actually contained an extremely small amount of the blood of a saint. The ghost flower of the netherworld did not lie. I was too careless. I didn't expect that Hong Lian who fought against me was not her true self but an illusory existence like the clone of a tree demon. That was why she self-destructed without any hesitation. This woman's clone could actually self-destruct after being sealed by the bewitching technique. What an impressive technique. If I didn't react in time, I'm afraid my injuries would have worsened. Looking at the battle just now, other than using the black smoke, this woman only used her Dao weapon. At first, I thought it was her arrogance. However, if the one she fought just now was just some kind of clone of her, it would make more sense. Her clone doesn't seem to be able to grasp too many types of abilities. Not being able to analyze this matter from the details is my first mistake in this battle. As for my second mistake, it's because I trusted the bewitching technique too much. Somewhere in the sky above the ruins, a giant teleportation gate suddenly appeared. Then, Ning Fan led his team and walked out of it. His expression was rather unpleasant. Initially, he thought that he had successfully captured the second quasi-saint human cauldron. However, he did not expect such an unforeseen event to happen. In the end, all his efforts were in vain. The one he captured was not Hong Lian's true self at all. Instead, it was some kind of clone that she cultivated. It was as if there was a warning bell ringing in his heart. All along, he seemed to have too much faith in the power of the bewitching technique. However, in reality, the yin-yang transformation and chaotic loop arts were only created by Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was nearly invincible at the second step. He could also intimidate many saints at the third step. However, after all, he was not the strongest in the world. The bewitching technique created by Ancient Chaos was naturally not invincible and undefeatable. Ever since he started cultivating the Tao, he had never considered the possibility of his bewitching technique being broken. He had too much faith in the ability of bewitching techniques to restrain women. In other words, Hong Lian was not the only one who underestimated the enemy. He also underestimated himself. Fortunately, he was getting more and more experienced in escaping from explosions. This time, not only did he manage to escape from the explosion with his team, but he also brought the sludge monster in the prisoner carriage along with him. As for the other prisoners and the ordinary light ant experts who were escorting the prisoner carriage, all of them were killed by the explosion. Ning Fan was very sorry. He did not have extra time to save the others. Besides, he would not be so kind as to save the enemies of the light ant clan. Cough cough, Brother Ning, I'm convinced. I'm really convinced. If I follow you, I will be bombed no matter where I go. Sooner or later, I will die together with you. The injuries of old ancestor Lei Zhe from the previous explosion had yet to heal. Right after that, he encountered another terrifying explosion. His heart almost jumped out of his throat. It was really fucking exciting. He was nearly scared to death. Master, are you all right? Brother Ning, are you all right? Great hero, are you all right? It was Black Devil, Afro, and the sludge monster who were concerned about Ning Fan. They would not complain about Ning Fan like old ancestor Lei Zhe did. Ning Fan's luck with women had always been better than his luck with the old man. Of course, Ning Fan was fine. He glared at old ancestor Lei Zhe angrily. This fellow was saved by him once again. Not only did he not say a few words of gratitude, but he actually complained about him instead. Indeed, Little Mao and the others are more considerate. Brother Ning, what should we do next? If I'm not mistaken, the one who self-detonated just now was just some kind of clone of Hong Lian. Even though her clone was destroyed, her true body is still here. We have to be careful. After being glared at, old ancestor Lei Zhe immediately shut his mouth and stopped complaining. He did not know that Ning Fan had sneakily attacked female cultivators with his bewitching technique again. He only knew that Ning Fan had killed another quasi-Saint Realm expert within a few hundred moves. Alright, the one Ning Fan killed was actually just a clone of Hong Lian and not a real quasi-Saint Realm expert. After killing this clone, Ning Fan's baleful chi did not even increase by a single bit. However, this was enough to prove that Ning Fan was really powerful. This young man's glorious battle record has been added to another record. He really had some respect for Ning Fan now. Indeed, we have to be careful. Ning Fan sighed. When old ancestor Lei Zhe said that he had to be careful, it was just a casual remark. At this moment, he already had a blind trust in Ning Fan's strength. Even if Hong Lian's true body comes to kill him, he would not be worried. He was just giving him a casual reminder. However, Ning Fan was really a little worried. He was not sure if Hong Lian would be on guard against his bewitching technique the next time they meet. When some clones are killed, they would not transfer their memories to their true body. However, some clones would. If this woman is on guard the next time, it would be very difficult for his bewitching technique to work. There are actually so many places where the underground water has been blasted out. Ning Fan suddenly noticed that there were many places where the rock strata had been blasted apart. The underground water that seeped out from the broken rock strata actually carried traces of blood. There were too few traces of blood. It was so little that even an existence like old ancestor Lei Zhe could not detect it. However, it could not hide from Ning Fan's second-level heavenly being realm eyesight. Could it be that these traces of blood are the saint's blood? With this saint's blood, can the ghost flower of the netherworld heal itself? This is really a coincidence. The underground rock strata that he could not cut open no matter how hard he tried was actually blasted apart by Hong Lian's cloning technique. Should he thank Hong Lian for her righteous help? Master, I can feel a raging chi rushing towards this place from afar. That chi is very similar to the chi that attacked you just now. Black Devil reported. The drizzle that I spread out also sensed this. It's Hong Lian's true body without a doubt. It seems like her true body has received the news and is here to avenge her clone. Ning Fan frowned. It seemed like Hong Lian's true body also knew how powerful his bewitching technique was. Then should we leave or fight again? Please give the order, Master. Of course not. Based on my rain technique, Even if Hong Lian's true body rushes to this place, she will need at least 2 hours. She is too far away. 2 hours is enough for me to do a lot of things. Ning Fan walked to a crack in the rock strata and summoned the ghost flower of the netherworld. Previously, he had a conversation with the ghost flower of the netherworld. If he uses low-grade flesh to heal the ghost flower, it would take 10 years to fully recover. However, if he uses the saint's blood, it would at most take the time for an incense stick to burn to fully recover. As long as it has sufficient nutrients, its regeneration speed would be astonishingly fast. When the ghost flower recovers, so what if Hong Lian's true body comes to kill him? Even if Hong Lian is wary of his bewitching technique, he would still have something to rely on. He could use the ghost soldiers to besiege her. Saint's blood. Saint's blood. It was the ghost flower's excited voice. Only Ning Fan could hear it. Drink. Drink to your heart's content. Hurry up and heal your injuries. Ning Fan said with a smile. You drink too. You drink too. The ghost flower of the netherworld said. I won't drink it. I know what kind of thing the saint's blood is. Even though there was a small amount of saint blood in the groundwater, it was not something that a second-step cultivator could consume. If I consume it directly, even if I don't die, my foundation will certainly be damaged. It's really not worth it. Of course, it's still useful to collect some extra saint blood. Ning Fan said regretfully. Unless it was a heaven-defying second-step cultivator like the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor, consuming the blood of a saint was equivalent to courting death. I'll help you. I'll help you. The saint went berserk and spilled blood to become a demon. You are an ancient demon. I will help you and you can drink it alive. Can you help me? But what does this have to do with me being an ancient devil? Ning Fan was surprised. As he continued to communicate with the ghost flower of the netherworld, Ning Fan's eyes gradually turned solemn. Old ancestor Lei Zhe's eyes were filled with kindness. When he saw Ning Fan talking to the plant, he thought that Ning Fan must have gone crazy again. It's good that your illness is acting up. Being crazy was the glorious tradition of the Yin and Yang sect. If he wasn't crazy, how could he be the successor of the Yin and Yang saint? If he didn't go crazy, he wouldn't be able to survive. He was very happy to see Ning Fan carrying forward this glorious tradition. He was very satisfied. Ning Fan was the successor of the Yin and Yang sect that he wanted to protect. His choice was not wrong. Even if he dies because of Ning Fan one day, it would be worth it. Chapter 12:01. More and more netherworld ghost flowers grew on the desolate land of flesh and blood. Gradually, the area within thousands of miles became a world of thorns and vines. The roots of the ghost flowers of the netherworld pierced into the cracks of the rocks and greedily absorbed the underground water that contained a tiny amount of the saint's blood. No one knew how thick the earth was. Although the power of the self-explosion of a sage-to-be was terrifying, it could only blow up a very thin layer of rock. The roots of the ghost flower of the underworld could only drink a small amount of underground water on the surface of the earth. The deeper underground water could not be touched. A speck of dust from a saint could fill the ocean, a blade of grass could cut through the sun and moon, and even a drop of blood from a saint could contain supreme power. The ghost flower of the underworld wasn't drinking blood. It was clearly consuming the world's most nutritious medicine. As she drank more and more blood, her vines began to release a faint clear qi. If one looked closely, they would find that the clear qi could be divided into 3 different shades of clear qi. The 3 pure qis gathered and dispersed at times, which was indescribably mysterious. Since the Luai's patriarch could not see the 3 pure ones gathering and dispersing, he was naturally not interested in the clear qi and started to focus on healing himself. Ning Fan was very interested in this 3 pure gathering powder. What is the clear qi that appeared on your body? Ning Fan asked the ghost flower of the netherworld. This is not anger, but anger. Qi and qi have the same sound. Therefore, this sentence sounded a little difficult to understand. It's not anger, but anger? I don't understand. Acquired is qi, innate is qi, breathing is qi, existence is qi. Qi is the starting point of all living things, qi is the end of all living things. Qi is His chi is. Only now did he realize that the netherworld ghost flower was talking about the difference between chi and chi. Many cultivation manuals had the word chi in them, and there were even many manuals that mixed the two together. He didn't know what chi was. He had never seen anyone cultivate it during the Age of Chaos. Even though the underworld ghost flower had explained a lot about it, he still didn't know what chi was. It was as if he didn't know what it was. There were always some things that could not be described with words. No matter how many words were used to describe it, it would not be able to get close to its essence. One could only comprehend it with one's heart. Forget it, what chi is not important at all. Can the method you just mentioned really allow me to drink the saint's blood directly? Not a large amount, but a small amount is fine. I'm already very satisfied to be able to eat a small amount of saint's blood raw. I didn't expect the ancient demon clan to have such a secret technique that requires the blood of a third stepmaster to cultivate. During their previous conversation, the ghost flower of the netherworld had told him some secrets of the ancient devil race. In truth, it was not a secret. In the true world, everyone knew about it. In the era when the summit of demon sealings still existed in the illusory world, it was not a secret either. However, the ancient devil clan in the illusory dream world had already declined. This matter had already become history. That was why Ning Fan did not know about it. The ancient devils cultivated the blood, the ancient demons cultivated the spirit, and the ancient gods cultivated the heart. Different paths of cultivation naturally led to different innate talents. The ancient devil's talent lay in blood. If one's blood was cultivated to the limit, it would undergo a qualitative change, forming the ancient devil's special killing technique, ancestral atavism. The corresponding realm of ancient devils and eternal cultivators was called the ancestral atavism realm. However, to Ning Fan, who cultivated multiple bloodlines at the same time, there was no difference whether it was called ancestral atavism or eternal immemorial realm. Thus, he did not really care about it. Ning Fan had always thought that ancestral atavism was just a name. It would not matter even if it was called incorrectly. Thus, he did not really care about it. However, that was not the case. In the era when the Devil Conferral Summit still existed, any ancient devil at the peak of the Devil Conferral Summit was qualified to cultivate the ancestral atavism technique as long as they cultivated to the ancestral atavism realm. Unfortunately, there was not even 1 in 10,000 who could truly cultivate the ancestral atavism technique. The reason why the 9 devil ancestors who were suppressed in the ancient devil's abyss were so famous was not because of their high cultivation base. Instead, it was because they had activated the ancestral atavism technique by chance. Thus, they were the superior beings in the ancient devil clan. The cultivation of the ancestral atavism technique was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Just to obtain the qualification to cultivate this technique, one would need to consume the blood of a saint. The blood of a saint was extremely precious. Among the ancient devils at the eternal immemorial realm, there were only a few who could obtain the blood of a third step saint. Those who obtained it by chance and could consume the blood of a saint without dying were even fewer. Moreover, the blood of a saint was just a threshold to cultivate this technique. In order to cultivate this technique to the highest level, the conditions were even harsher. Other than Great Emperor Mo, there was no one else on the peak of the Devil Conferral Summit who had cultivated the technique to the highest level of ancestral atavism. Even Great Emperor Ancient Chaos did not cultivate it to the highest level of ancestral atavism because what he learned was too miscellaneous. Ning Fan naturally had no idea about all of these. He only became interested in this technique after hearing about the various powerful aspects of the ancestral atavism technique from the ghost flower of the netherworld. The cultivation of the ancestral atavism technique was divided into 3 stages: blood-drawing regeneration, blood-sprinkling rampage, and blood sacrifice to return to ancestral atavism. As the name suggested, blood-drawing regeneration was to absorb the blood chi of the enemy to recover one's own injuries and magic power. The principle of this technique was very similar to the ancient devil-killing technique. Of course, the ancient devil-killing technique also had other magical uses. Ning Fan suspected that Great Emperor Mo had created the ancient devil-killing technique based on the principle of the first stage of the ancestral atavism technique and established his position as the master of the devil conferral summit. Blood-sprinkling rampage was a powerful technique. It was a secret technique that could increase one's strength within a short period of time. By sacrificing one's own blood, one could forcefully increase one's strength. The higher the grade of an ancient devil's bloodline, the more obvious the increase of the rampage technique would be. The principle of this technique to increase one's strength was very similar to the ancient devil-killing technique. The difference was that the ancient devil-killing technique required one to sacrifice the enemy's life to increase one's strength, while the rampage technique required one to sacrifice one's own blood. The third stage of the ancestral atavism technique was the scariest. Actually, the ghost flower of the netherworld was not particularly clear about what the third stage looked like. After all, she was not an ancient devil. The ghost flower of the netherworld had only told Ning Fan a story. In the true world, there was once an ancient devil at the vein-opening realm. He encountered an accident and directly atavism. In that state, his consciousness was completely separated from time and space. He massacred a few middle-grade immortal kingdoms and killed more than 10 saints. The vein-opening realm ancient devil destroyed a kingdom and killed the saints. This story sounded just like a fantasy. However, if it is true, the ancestral atavism technique would be too terrifying. What kind of experience would the third stage of the ancestral atavism technique be? Of course, the price of atavism was also very heavy. As that vein-opening realm junior used the ancestral atavism technique too much, all of his parallel samsara realms collapsed and his existence was completely erased by the samsara. Even someone as strong as a fourth-step immortal sovereign could not bring that young man back from the endless samsara. I'm going too far. With the nourishment of the saint's blood, the ghost flower of the netherworld's injuries were fully healed in less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. As the ghost flower of the netherworld recovered, the undying ghost soldiers that Ning Fan created also recovered to their original state. The next step was the most important part. The ghost flower of the netherworld claimed that it could provide Ning Fan with a certain degree of help by helping him consume the saint's blood to activate the first stage of the ancient devil atavism technique. The first stage was blood absorption. If he could obtain this ancient devil technique, the injuries on Ning Fan's body would not be a problem at all. He would be able to recover after absorbing some saint's blood. The ghost flower of the netherworld did not expect that it could help Ning Fan cultivate the second stage of the ancestral atavism technique. Was the ancestral atavism technique that easy to cultivate? The cultivation of this technique required the saint's blood to activate it. Moreover, it also required a profound understanding of the ancestral atavism technique. Even those infamous ancient devil saints in the true world needed a long period of time to comprehend the essence of the ancestral atavism technique when they first started cultivating this technique. If one's understanding of the first stage was insufficient, they would not be able to enter the second stage at all. Next, I will directly absorb the saint's blood from underground. You just need to bite my root and drink my root fluid to obtain the diluted components of the saint's blood. My root fluid can harmonize the enormous energy of the saint's blood, making it easier to absorb. However, not everyone can consume my root fluid. Only those who have signed a contract with me can do so. As for the others, they will be cursed by the nether curse. Nether curse? Ning Fan nodded. He did not ask what the nether curse was. He only needed to know one thing. Only a contractor like him could obtain the help of the ghost flower of the netherworld and consume the saint's blood using this method. The ghost flower of the netherworld pulled out a root that was as thick as a bowl from the rock stratum and brought it to Ning Fan, letting him bite it. Ning Fan received the root and observed it for a long time. After making sure that it would not harm him, he finally opened his mouth and bit it. However, just as his teeth were about to touch the root, he hesitated again. The ghost flower of the netherworld is a woman, right? This root is equivalent to her body and the root fluid is similar to her blood, right? It seems a little cruel for him to bite the other party's body and drink her blood. Ning Fan, of course, would not mind this little bit of cruelty to his enemies. However, the ghost flower of the netherworld was his companion in countless life and death battles. You're hesitating. You suspect that I will use this method to harm you, right? Don't worry. Something like a contract has a powerful restriction that you can't imagine. Since I've made a contract with you, I can't do anything to harm you unless our contract ends. Besides, I'm in a cage and you're my only hope of survival. I have no reason to harm you. Because of Ning Fan's sudden hesitation, the ghost flower of the netherworld seemed to have misunderstood it. Ning Fan smiled bitterly but did not explain further. How should he explain it? Should he say that he had tender feelings for a bunch of vines and roots? As for doubts, ever since he heard the words of the all-knowing old man, Ning Fan finally realized that everything in this world was actually full of doubts and falsehoods. You can doubt everything and even doubt your own existence. But at the end of the day, you need to believe in everything. He chose to believe in the ghost flower of the netherworld. He believed that the companions whom he had gone through life and death together were not falsehoods. If he was still deceived in the end, then he could only accept it. Isn't this the truth of the world? In the end, he still made up his mind and bit it. Seeing that Ning Fan chose to believe in it, the ghost flower of the netherworld seemed to be very happy. No one liked to be doubted by their companions. Its vines and leaves swayed happily. It was unknown if it was because of the wind. The root fluid was very bitter. It was as bitter as the tears of a woman missing her lover. In this kind of bitterness, there was a hint of undetectable sweetness. It was the taste of blood. It was the saint's blood that was further diluted in the root fluid of the ghost flower. Hot. So hot. The saint's blood that was even thinner than a tiny amount actually had an unimaginable heat. It was as if just a tiny trace of blood was enough to burn Ning Fan's entire existence into ashes. It was even hotter than the extreme yang. It was even hotter than any flames at the second step in this world. That was the temperature of the blood boiling. If one were to observe it to a microscopic level, they would notice that every single blood cell in the saint's blood was engraved with ancient scriptures. Engraving scriptures on the blood. This was a technique that only a true saint would have. As long as one hasn't attained the third step, no matter how heaven-defying one is, one would not be able to achieve this. Ning Fan sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He held the root and drank the blood. His face was filled with pain. His face became redder and redder. His body bulged like a ball. The pain was unbearable. With his current cultivation base, it was impossible for him to forcefully refine the saint's blood. Even with the help of the ghost flower of the netherworld, he only consumed a tiny amount of the blood which was almost undetectable. However, this trace of blood represented the insurmountable gap between the second step and the third step. It represented the dignity of the third step. No matter what, it could not be violated by the second step. If you dare to drink my blood, I will take your life. This is the dignity of a saint. In a daze, Ning Fan seemed to see a female ant which was as large as a boundless world through that trace of the saint's blood. It was glaring at him furiously. What Ning Fan drank was the blood of the Lord Ant. The illusion he saw was the Tao and sense that the Lord Ant had left in the depths of the blood. Under the influence of the Lord Ant's Tao sense, Ning Fan shockingly discovered that his own Tao sense was showing signs of collapsing due to the absorption of the saint's blood. As expected, his current cultivation base was still not enough to consume the saint's blood raw. Even if he had a heaven-defying divine spirit body, it was still not enough. If he could not do it, how many people at the second step could do it since the ancient times until now? Unfortunately, the ancient devil clan was an unusual one. This bloodthirsty clan's research on blood was far beyond that of ordinary people. Just as Ning Fan could no longer endure the corrosion of the saint's blood in his body, the ancient devil bloodline in his body began to retaliate. The runes of the devil talisman began to appear on his entire body. Strange patterns covered his entire body, making him look evil. The devil nature that he had been suppressing was like a volcano erupting at this moment. His eyes gradually turned scarlet as if he was going to devour someone. The devil blood in his body began to boil like lava erupting from a volcano. Devour, devour, devour. His devil blood began to forcefully devour a small amount of the saint's blood. No matter how noble you are, as long as you are an enemy, I will tear off your skin, bite your bones and swallow your blood. This was madness. It was madness. It was emosu. When his blood boiled to an extremely hot state, it suddenly turned extremely cold. It was as cold as hell under the 8 coldest temperatures. At this moment, an extreme change occurred in the boiling of his devil blood. At this moment, Ning Fan's body temperature began to drop. His swollen body began to return to its original size. However, his consciousness became even more blurry. The madness in his mind increased by countless times. I want to tear this heaven apart. I want to trample this earth. I want to sweep away all my enemies. I want to sacrifice my remaining blood to shatter the turbid world and spread my devil sense. Roar. Ning Fan let out a devil roar that soared into the sky. A large amount of blood vapor emerged from his body. With just a trace of the saint's blood, he had actually broken the shackles of the devil sense in his body and stepped into the blood-drawing realm, which was the first stage of ancestral awakening. Blood. He wanted more blood. Ning Fan's consciousness became more and more blurry. He grabbed the root of the ghost flower in a violent manner and bit it hard. Large mouthfuls of root fluid flowed into his stomach. It's really sweet. This is the taste of blood. A cruel and bloodthirsty smile hung on Ning Fan's face. As he forcefully absorbed the saint's blood, the severe injuries on his body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. 30 breaths. In just 30 breaths, all of Ning Fan's injuries were completely healed. Such a shocking recovery speed could be said to be heaven-defying. Even if all of Ning Fan's recovery methods were added together, it would still be far inferior to the speed of his current recovery. What did this kid do? How did he become like this? Why is his chi so cold that it makes my heart palpitate? How did his injuries recover so quickly? If ordinary quasi-saints were to suffer such injuries, they would definitely not be able to recover in less than 10 years. Moreover, this is because he did not damage his foundation. For people like me whose foundation is severely injured, I will need a long period of time to recover. This kid's recovery speed is just too terrifying. Old ancestor Lei Zhe was shocked beyond words. It was difficult for him to calm down and heal his injuries on his own. His attention was completely attracted by the commotion caused by Ning Fan. What's wrong with Brother Ning? His chi has become so cold. Afro accidentally met Ning Fan's merciless eyes and she actually shivered. Master? He seems to be undergoing some kind of cultivation. Black Devil could tell a little about it. However, her memory was too incomplete. She could not remember what had happened to Ning Fan's current posture. Don't worry, all of you. Brother Hero has obtained a great fortune and has officially completed the first stage of the ancient devil ancestral awakening technique. It's really amazing. In the true world, there are very few ancient devils who can successfully cultivate this technique. Is this the blood-drawing regeneration technique? What a terrifying recovery ability! Ning Fan's severe injuries were healed in less than 30 breaths. I heard that the ancient devil saints of the true world need a long period of time to comprehend this technique, even if they possess the blood of a saint. Brother Hero must have spent countless years to comprehend this technique. After the battle with that female thief, Hong Lian, he finally had an epiphany and broke through the bottleneck. The sludge monster explained. What she did not know, however, was that Ning Fan did not spend a long period of time to comprehend the ancestral awakening technique. As soon as Ning Fan heard about the existence of the ancestral awakening technique, he succeeded in cultivating it in one go. It was luck, but it was also not. It was luck because there was coincidentally the blood of a saint in this place, and the ghost flower of the netherworld helped him to dilute the blood, reducing the difficulty of him consuming the blood. It was not luck because the principle of the first stage of the ancestral awakening technique was too similar to the killing technique. Ning Fan had already comprehended the killing technique to an extremely high level. To him, the first stage of the ancestral awakening technique was not difficult at all. The principle of the ancestral awakening technique that was hard for others to understand was too easy for a cultivator of the killing technique like him. Is this the power of the first stage of the ancestral awakening technique, the blood drawing technique? This technique gives me a feeling that as long as I kill and drink the blood of others, I will be omnipotent. The only flaw is that the devil intent produced by this technique is too violent. If it isn't for my firm Tao heart, I'm afraid my mind would be directly devoured by the devil intent once I activate the blood drawing technique, turning me into a human-shaped killing machine. So, this was the true appearance of an ancient devil. It was not enough to just comprehend the ancient devil Tao of destruction. A true ancient devil could only become strong after being bathed in blood. The principle of the first stage of the ancestral awakening technique isn't difficult to understand. As for the second stage, it is still a little difficult. After all, even though the second stage has some principles similar to the killing technique, there are still some differences. I wonder if I can use the blood of a saint in this place to attain the second stage of the ancestral awakening technique. Ning Fan began to try. As a result, his body began to undergo a shocking transformation. He did not activate his eternal true body on his own, but his true body was activated on its own. Then, the form of his eternal true body actually underwent a huge change on its original foundation. Ning Fan practiced the Devil Tao. His forte was the element of wood. After all, he had already awakened his divine spark and became the Father God. He was more powerful than the sovereign realm and more powerful than the titled realm. As a result, the change of his true body was actually following the direction of the wooden man. The form of his eternal true body was no longer a simple golden armored giant. Instead, it was evolving into the form of a golden armored tree devil. Ning Fan was a little confused. He was clearly cultivating the second stage of the ancestral awakening technique, but his eternal true body suddenly underwent a change at an untimely time. The appearance of this change was actually a little similar to the second stage of the ancient true body. What's going on? I clearly want to use the power of the second stage of the ancestral awakening technique to go berserk. Why does it seem like I'm cultivating the second stage of the ancient true body instead? Is it the case for every ancient devil, or is it only an ancient divine being like me? Ancestral awakening, all of a sudden, a thought flashed across Ning Fan's mind. He seemed to have understood something. What kind of ancestor is the ancient devil returning to? In this world, there were divine spirits first, followed by immortal spirits. Among the descendants of immortal spirits, there were also clans like ancient devils. Could it be that it wasn't the ancestors of ancient devils who returned to their ancestry, but the ancestors of all living beings, divine spirits? The ancestral atavism technique was used to turn a cultivator into a divine spirit. As for Jiang Yi himself, he was already a divine spirit. If the ancestral atavism technique was used on him, it was highly possible that the effect would be different from the other ancient devils. Ning Fan did not know that his guess was actually very close to the truth. A normal ancient demon's ancestral awakening was to assume the form of a divinity and use the power of a normal divinity to kill their enemies. However, Ning Fan was originally a divine spirit. His ancestor was not an ordinary divine spirit, but the ancestor of all divine spirits. The Treant devil that his true body had transformed into was no ordinary Treant devil, but the form of the wood ancestor god. Ning Fan was fortunate enough to become the father god of wood. It was because all the divine spirits of the wood element had died out in this era. Otherwise, he certainly would not have had the chance to become the father god of wood. The so-called father god of wood must be the strongest wood god of the same era. But that was only in the context of the same era. Only the strongest father god who stood above all the wood father gods of all eras could be called the ancestor god. If Ning Fan completely steps into the second stage of ancestral awakening, his eternal true body would probably evolve in the direction of the wood ancestor god and display a little of the power of an ancestor god. Unfortunately, he could not do it. The devil sense that was produced in the first stage of ancestral awakening had almost devoured his rationality. The devil sense produced in the second stage was tens of times stronger than the first stage. This level of devil sense was just too terrifying. His second stage of eternal true body had only formed a part of its outline, but his entire body was already on the verge of collapse. If he forcefully steps into the second stage of true body, he would completely lose his rationality and be devoured by the devil sense. When he enters the state of chi deviation, he would only know how to kill. Old ancestor Leisha, Little Mao, and the other women in front of him would become his indiscriminate killing targets. Thus, Ning Fan did not continue to try to enter the second stage of ancestral awakening. It was not because he could not do it, but because he did not dare to act recklessly. He was afraid that he would hurt the people close to him. He calmed the devil sense in his body and exited the incomplete second stage of ancestral awakening. Then, he exited the first stage of ancestral awakening. All the blood vapor on his body had disappeared. Seeing that Ning Fan was safe and sound after causing such a huge commotion, Leisha and the others felt relieved. Only the sludge monster had its mouth wide open. Because it was too shocked, it could not close it no matter how hard it tried. The second stage of ancestral awakening. Brother Ing has definitely stepped into the second stage of ancestral awakening. He had clearly just completed the first stage, but he actually stepped into the second stage in just a blink of an eye. How is this possible? Among all the ancient devil saints in the true world, there isn't a single one who could do such a heaven-defying thing. Could it be that Brother Ying's innate potential is actually above all the ancient devils in the true world? The sludge monster admired Ning Fan even more now. Her brother Ing actually had the chance to become the strongest ancient devil in history. Who would dare to bully her if she stays by his side? Brother Ning, what exactly are you? Old ancestor Leisha was full of doubts. He wanted to ask Ning Fan what he was doing just now, but then thought that it might be Ning Fan's secret. Thus, he found it inappropriate to ask. I'm sorry. Ning Fan apologized. He was apologizing because he could not tell him the truth. The identity of a divine being was too taboo. If it is leaked out, he did not know what kind of chaos it would cause. Thus, it was for his own good that he did not tell old ancestor Leisha about it. Why are you apologizing? Which person doesn't have some secrets? When I was 9 years old, I smelled my senior sister's underwear and I didn't tell anyone about it. Old ancestor Leisha covered his mouth awkwardly. This fellow just spilled the beans. When he was young, he seemed to have done some outrageous things. Luckily, his senior sister did not know about it. Otherwise, she would probably beat him to death. When Senior was young, you were really mischievous. When Ning Fan suddenly heard such inappropriate words, he also felt a little awkward. He almost did not know how to reply. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Old ancestor Leisha smiled awkwardly. Ning Fan did not believe that it was a joke. However, he did not mention it again to prevent old ancestor Leisha from feeling awkward. After curing the ghost flower of the netherworld and successfully cultivating the first stage of the ancestral awakening technique, Ning Fan was in a pretty good mood. Even if Hong Lian's true body comes here, he was also confident that he could fight her without using his bewitching technique. Unfortunately, it seemed like it would still take a long time for Hong Lian's true body to arrive. Thus, in the remaining time, Ning Fan began to produce the corpse slave king and ghost soldier. If he could create this corpse slave king and ghost soldier before Hong Lian arrives, it would certainly give her a big surprise. What made Ning Fan happy was that the success rate of the ghost soldier was actually close to 100% while the ghost flower was absorbing the blood of the saints in the underground world. Its production speed was also shockingly fast. Not long after that, the corpse slave king and ghost soldier were created. Now, Ning Fan had another great general under his command. If Hong Lian's true body comes here without a plan, he would certainly be in big trouble. However, there was one thing that Ning Fan was not quite satisfied with. The undying corpse slave king that he created seemed to be a little disobedient. What's going on? Aren't undying ghost soldiers supposed to obey their master's orders without question? Why is this corpse slave king so resistant to my orders? Ning Fan frowned. This ghost soldier is too strong. Your cultivation base is not high enough to control it perfectly. If you want to control it perfectly, there is only one way. The ghost flower of the netherworld answered. What is it? Beat it into submission. This, Ning Fan felt a headache coming on. The corpse slave king was a monster with blood and chi. Before it became a ghost soldier, it was already not something that the Life Slayer sword could deal with easily. Now that it had become an undying ghost soldier, its undying ability became even more heaven-defying. It would be extremely difficult to restrain it with the Life Slayer sword. Hong Lian's true body was already not far away. Ning Fan did not think that he could subdue the corpse slave king in such a short time. After all, the corpse slave king was not as weak as Myriad Saint Dragon King. Forget it. I'll deal with the corpse slave king's obedience when I have the time later. Right now, even though it is somewhat resistant to my orders, it doesn't mean that it will absolutely disobey me. If I order it to attack Hong Lian, it will still participate in the battle even if it doesn't put in its full effort. Ning Fan said helplessly. He was getting closer. He was getting closer. There was no geomagnetic interference here. Ning Fan's rain technique could sense places far away without any hindrance. He could sense that Hong Lian's true body was already very close to him. This time, Hong Lian did not come in the form of her lotus seed clone. Her strength would certainly be much stronger than the previous battle, and she would be more vigilant against the bewitching technique. However, Ning Fan was no longer injured like before. This time, he could exert 100% of his strength, and he could even use his ghost soldiers. Moreover, among the ghost soldiers, there was an additional corpse slave king who was not very obedient. The undying corpse slave king, the undying soul-sucking tree, the undying Myriad Saint Dragon King, the undying Black Qilin. In addition to Ning Fan, who was in his peak condition, if he still could not get rid of Hong Lian with such a powerful lineup, he would really be ashamed to face others. They were getting closer and closer. Hong Lian could sense that Ning Fan and the others were right in front of them. They were right at the place where the battle took place just now. This young man is really arrogant. She did not believe that Ning Fan did not know that her true body was coming. This young man clearly knew that her true body was coming, but he actually did not run away. Instead, he stayed at the same place and waited for her to come. Did he not put her in his eyes at all? Do you think you can use your bewitching technique to trick me again? Dog man, you will regret it. Hong Lian's delicate voice reverberated across heaven and earth. At the moment when her voice resounded, she finally appeared in the line of sight of Ning Fan and the others. Do you know how many years it will take for me to recover the lotus seed clone that I lost? You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. I have said that I will get back at you. Since you are a disciple of the chaotic Kuan race, you are probably daydreaming about the pure land of bliss, aren't you? Just as well. I will send you to the pure land of bliss with the 8 treasures red lotus karmic fire of your chaotic Kuan race. Hong Lian was so angry that she laughed. She opened her mouth and breathed out raging flames. What she breathed out was not fire. It was karmic fire. Chapter 1202. This lady can actually summon the karmic fire to hurt her enemies. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. The karmic fire was just too famous. The karmic fire in his body was said to be unparalleled in the world. However, it was still within the scope of fire after all. The karmic fire was different. It only existed in legends, and it had already surpassed the existence of fire. It was on a completely different level compared to fire. The karmic fire was not something that a second-step cultivator could control. Of course, the Red Lotus could not do it either. If Ning Fan was not mistaken, the Red Lotus could only use an extremely small amount of the power of the karmic fire. The karmic fire was a flame that could eliminate sins. It would weaken in the face of kindness and become stronger in the face of evil. It was the supreme technique of the Buddhism sect. It was also one of the common methods used by the saints of the Buddhism sect to subdue the ancient devils. Ning Fan had never been a kind person. His path of cultivation could be said to be a bloody one. He had committed monstrous sins. He had a method to kill people without being tainted by karma. However, It did not mean that he could get rid of the karmic fire. Killing people without being tainted by karma was just deceiving the heavenly Tao samsara and cutting off the connection of the heavenly secrets. However, it was just deceiving but not completely eradicating. His sins would not be cleansed even if he deceives others. Moreover, the karmic fire did not simply hurt people using the karmic fire. It used the karmic fire as its fuel, but it was an existence that was higher than the karmic fire. Even though Ning Fan was not afraid of the karmic fire, he did not dare to say that he was absolutely not afraid of the karmic fire. If there was really a trick to face the karmic fire, the Buddhism cultivators of the past would not be afraid of the punishment of being burned by the karmic fire. Facing the karmic fire, Ning Fan once again felt restrained. His ocean-defying sword was restrained by the red lotus. His sins were also restrained by the lady. He had always been the one restraining others. However, at this moment he was restrained everywhere. He did not like this feeling of being weak. If this lady is a saint and attacks me with an infinite amount of karmic fire, perhaps I can only accept my fate. Unfortunately, she is not a saint. The amount of karmic fire she summoned is too little. Ning Fan leaped into the sky with a ruthless expression and rushed towards the red lotus. Cross-shaped halo activate. Eternal true body appear. The illusory God-vanquishing shield transformed into the left hand of the true body. With a thought, the shield became infinitely larger, and the surging hellfire was actually blocked by the God-vanquishing shield. If the karmic fire will harm me by touching it, then I shall not let the karmic fire touch me. Impossible. Even though I only summoned a small amount of hellfire, it's impossible for even a mid-grade congenital magic treasure to block the hellfire. That shield of yours is clearly not even a magic treasure. So how could such an illusory thing possibly block the hellfire? Red Lotus was shocked to the extreme. Originally, she planned to show her strength to Ning Fan at the beginning of the battle. Thus, she used her trump card, the karmic fire. However, she did not expect that her karmic fire could not penetrate Ning Fan's defense. This isn't a shield shadow. This is a shield soul. You won't understand. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly gloomy. His golden body held the illusory shield. It was as if he had returned to the time when the God-exterminating shield slaughtered all his enemies. The shield had died for its master, and its soul still existed. Even if it was just a shield soul, it was still a heaven-splitting soul. Furthermore, it was a soul that was famous on the heaven-opening roll. How could such a small amount of karmic flames burn his soul and destroy his existence? Shield charge. Ning Fan turned into a ray of golden light. With the shadow of the God-exterminating shield in front of him, he directly charged at Hong Lian like a cannonball. This was a technique that he often used in the past. Now that he was using the God-exterminating shield to attack and defend himself, he naturally used this technique. The sea of flames of the karmic fire was easily penetrated by a ray of golden light. It could not stop him at all. Subconsciously, Red Lotus wanted to avoid Ning Fan's charge. No one would be willing to be hit head-on by a raging bull. However, her pride did not allow her to retreat, not even if it was just dodging. She wanted to fight Ning Fan head-on and defeat him with brute force. Only then could she vent the hatred in her heart. Karmic fire, gather. Hong Lian waved her palm and the sky-covering karmic fire immediately rolled back to her. Since she could not burn Ning Fan, she decided not to burn him anymore. Otherwise, it would be a waste of the flames. The karmic fire began to gather on her palm. In an instant, it actually condensed into a wind lantern that was engraved with the pattern of an 8-petaled lotus flower. It turned out that the karmic fire that Hong Lian summoned was just a small flame in the wind lantern. No wonder there were so few of them. The shape of the wind lantern had many decorations of the Buddhism sect. It looked like a lantern that was used by the monks in temples to light up the place. It was unknown where Hong Lian got her hands on such a thing. The lantern itself was not a magic treasure. It was just a tool that used the karmic fire to light up the place. Of course, in order to not be burned by the karmic fire, the materials used to make the lantern were all rare materials in the world. They looked like wood and gold, but they were not. They were actually materials that did not belong to the 5 elements. Using the karmic fire to light up the place and using materials that did not belong to the 5 elements to make a lantern was certainly not something that any temple in the Dharma ending era could offer. It was probably something that only existed in the true world. As soon as Hong Lian displayed her ability, the lantern immediately grew in the wind. The pole that carried the lantern instantly extended to 1,000 zhang long. This was exactly the distance that the cross-shaped halo could lock onto the enemy. She did not want to give Ning Fan any chance to get close to her. Just like that, she held the pole and swung the lantern at Ning Fan fiercely. Her posture did not have the demeanor of an immortal. Instead, it was filled with brutality. Boom! Under that single blow, both of them were sent flying backward. Hong Lian was pushed back less than 100 steps by the force of Ning Fan's collision. Inwardly, she was shocked by the strength of Ning Fan's strength. It was completely different from his weak appearance. Ning Fan's golden body was sent flying for a few hundred steps. His physical strength was not as good as Hong Lian's. It was not the god-exterminating shield that lost to this broken lantern. Instead, it was Ning Fan who lost. I have already seen through all of your heretical methods. Are you trying to use this collision to get closer to me and secretly use your bewitching technique? Dream on. You won't have the chance to sneak attack me again. Hong Lian smiled proudly. She displayed her ability and also activated her eternal true body. This time, she would not underestimate her enemy anymore. She wanted to crush Ning Fan with her strongest and most powerful strength. Hong Lian's true body was not in the form of a human. Instead, it was a scarlet-red giant ant that was hundreds of thousands of zhang long with 1,000 legs. The giant ant was holding the karmic fire lantern in its mouth. As soon as her true body appeared, Hong Lian's qi immediately skyrocketed. Her magic power surged to the level of 1,000 Tribulation Realm and went straight to the level of 15,000 Tribulation Realm. However, this was not the end. Immediately after that, she activated her second stage true body. The appearance of her true body changed again. It became even more ferocious and ferocious. Her body was surrounded by raging flames, turning her into a fire ant. Under the effect of her second stage true body, Hong Lian's qi skyrocketed again. Her strength was comparable to a quasi-saint realm expert with 16,000 Tribulation Realm. Second stage true body. This lady's true body is so gigantic. I can't lock her entire body even if I use the cross-shaped halo to lock her within 1,000 zhang. Even if I fight her in close combat, I won't be able to gain any advantage. The shell of her true body is even tougher. It seems to be able to defend against heretical methods like bewitching techniques. Ning Fan frowned. He knew that there was no way he could use any tricks in this battle. He could only use force. Do you think this is my strongest form? You're wrong. Ancestral Ant Force, activate. Hong Lian sneered. She could actually continue to become stronger. A golden armor appeared on her giant ant's body. That armor was not a physical form. Instead, it was condensed from the soul power of the Dao Hun clan. It was a soul armor. Ning Fan's expression immediately changed. Previously, the ghost flower of the netherworld had told him the secret of the ancestral atavism technique of the ancient devils. At the same time, it also mentioned some of the supreme secret techniques of the other clans. The ancestral atavism technique was the supreme secret technique of the ancient devil clan. Just like the ancient devil clan, the supreme secret technique of the ancient divine clan was the god sealing technique, while the supreme secret technique of the ancient demon clan was the spirit armor technique. The Dao Hun clan and the ancient demon clan were polar opposites. Their supreme secret technique was similar to the ancient demon clan. It was called the soul armor. As the supreme secret clan, the soul armor was naturally not something that any member of the Dao Hun clan could cultivate. At this moment, Hong Lian was completely relying on the remnant power of her ancestors to forcefully summon the soul armor. It was not her own technique. Such a half-baked soul armor would certainly not be heaven-defying. However, it was enough to further improve Hong Lian's strength. With the help of the soul armor, not only did Hong Lian's defensive power increase tremendously, but she could also be immune to more sneak attacks of the heretical methods. Needless to mention the bewitching techniques, she could directly use the power of the soul armor to reflect the attacks. Immobilization, dizziness, poison and a series of heretical methods would greatly reduce the damage they could inflict on her. Now, Ning Fan's heaven-sealing technique was no longer a threat to Hong Lian. Is this the result of a true quasi-saint going all out? I've fought against the soul-sucking tree, the fusion quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan, the princess of the Light Ant clan and the corpse slave king. It's not that these people aren't strong, but they all have their own flaws which gave me all kinds of opportunities to defeat them. Even though the corpse slave king is strong, its spiritual intelligence is too low and it lacks techniques. Therefore, it can only fight with brute force. Compared to Hong Lian, the fusion quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan shouldn't be considered as a quasi-saint at all. As for the soul-sucking tree and the princess of the Light Ant clan, both of them are half-baked quasi-saints. Hong Lian is different from them. She represents the strength of a first-level quasi-saint during the age of Dharma decline. This is the true strength of a quasi-saint. In the face of Hong Lian's complacent laughter, Ning Fan's mind became more and more clear-headed. His past achievements in defeating quasi-saints seemed to no longer be worth mentioning. Only by defeating Hong Lian would he truly have the qualifications to be on equal footing with a quasi-saint. His personal strength was not as good as Hong Lian's. Fortunately, summoning ghost soldiers was also a part of his overall strength. Therefore, he also had some advantages over Hong Lian. Not bad. Compared to before, you are much smarter now. You know to go all out at the beginning of the battle. However, you are still as careless as before. You don't seem to have noticed that I've done something to the heaven and earth of this place. As Ning Fan's voice fell, billions of sealing runes suddenly appeared between heaven and earth, completely sealing off the heaven and earth around Hong Lian. Seal the heaven and earth. You're despicable. You actually sealed off the heaven and earth of this place and intentionally waited for me to come. No wonder. No wonder you didn't leave and waited for me to come. At first, I thought you were just being arrogant. So, that's why. Do you dare to fight me fair and square? As soon as Hong Lian saw the surrounding heaven and earth being sealed off, she was instantly enraged. She knew that she had fallen into Ning Fan's trap again by recklessly rushing here this time. Sealing the heaven and earth did not only cut off her path of escape but also cut off the connection between her and the entire 13 vertebrae. Of course, Hong Lian did not think that she needed to escape in order to deal with Ning Fan. However, the fact that he cut off the connection between her and the entire 13 vertebrae really hit her weak spot. The existence of the 13 vertebrae was similar to the nest of an ant lord. She could borrow the enormous power of the nest to easily kill Ning Fan. The reason why she was confident in killing Ning Fan and taking revenge was not because of her own great strength but the power of the entire 13 vertebrae. However, Ning Fan was too cunning. He actually cut off the connection between her and the world of this place, causing her advantage of borrowing the power of the world to disappear in an instant. She had lost her advantage. She did not expect that Ning Fan actually knew so much about the nest of an ant lord. It was obvious that it was not his first time seeing the nest of an ant lord. So what if you sealed the heaven and earth? I can still kill you. Karmic light threads, shoot him. Hong Lian actually drew out the light of the karmic fire from the lantern, turning it into billions of karmic fire light threads and shooting them at Ning Fan. This kind of ability to draw light to manifest her divine ability really lived up to the name of the Light Ant clan. Since his opponent used light to attack him, Ning Fan naturally responded with darkness. The power of the dark yin and yang was activated at this moment. However, his darkness was completely no match for Hong Lian's light. It was not because the darkness was restrained by the light. In other words, there was no true restraint in this world. Water could extinguish fire, but fire could also boil water dry. The Life Slayer sword was said to be able to suppress undying beings. However, if the undying power of the undying is strong to a certain extent, the Life Slayer sword might be suppressed instead. The key to restraint was to break the balance of power and gain the upper hand. If one does not have the upper hand, they could only be restrained. Having studied the Tao of Yin and Yang for many years, Ning Fan had already understood this principle. His darkness was no match for Hong Lian's light. He used the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike and used the momentum of thousands of consecutive attacks to attack Hong Lian. However, he could only leave a few cracks on her soul armor. The defense of her soul armor was too strong. The sea-defying sword was strangely suppressed by Hong Lian's karmic fire lantern, which could easily dissolve half of its power. The immemorial lightning cauldron, sea-calming divine needle, seven treasures wondrous tree, flame lightning fire, sun moon star steel. Ning Fan used all of his mid-grade innate realm techniques. The battle lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. During the battle, the offensive power that Ning Fan displayed made Hong Lian more and more shocked. Gradually, she had a bad feeling. Without a doubt, the strength of this dog in front of her was not as good as hers. However, why did he have so many trump cards and techniques? A single mid-grade innate realm attack was not enough to make Hong Lian fearful. However, when multiple mid-grade innate realm attacks were stacked together, she found it a little difficult to endure. Her half-baked soul armor was not invincible. After being attacked by Ning Fan for 2 days and 2 nights, there were already some cracks on it. However, as long as her soul armor was not really broken, she could remain unharmed. On the other hand, Ning Fan was in a miserable state. The God-vanquishing shield only had a shadow left after all. It could not protect him from being damaged at all. After fighting for 2 days and 2 nights, Ning Fan had long been beaten to the point that he lost his human form? This is impossible. Wasn't this dog on the verge of death after being beaten by my second stage true body? How did he recover from his injuries after taking a few bites of the Netherworld Ghost Flower's root fluid? Wait, since when did such a terrifying blood vapor come out from this dog's body? Isn't this the first stage of the ancient devil ancestral atavism technique? This young man actually has such a terrifying healing technique? Wait a little longer. When did this dog summon the Netherworld Ghost Flower? He can actually summon this kind of forbidden plant. As a disciple of the chaotic Kuan sacred sect, how dare he ignore the laws of the 3 realms and collude with the Netherworld Ghost Flower? When Hong Lian first arrived, Ning Fan had already removed the summoning of the Netherworld Ghost Flower. He did not want to let Hong Lian know that he still had such a powerful trump card. After fighting for 2 days and 2 nights, Ning Fan had always been at a disadvantage. His injuries were getting more and more severe. Left with no other choice, Ning Fan finally decided to use what he had learned on the spot. He used the first stage of the ancestral atavism technique which he had just learned not long ago. With the help of the saint's blood that the Netherworld Ghost Flower transmitted to him, he healed the serious injuries on his body again and again. He had been fighting against Hong Lian for 2 days and 2 nights, but he did not summon any ghost soldiers at all. At most, he only used the ancestral atavism blood to heal his injuries. This was to measure the gap between his strength and Hong Lian's. He wanted to remember the gap in their strength forever and use it as a warning. There was enough saint's blood in this place which could help him heal his injuries at an extremely fast speed. If he continues to fight like this, he would be able to completely destroy Hong Lian's soul armor in another 10 to 15 days. After that, he would probably be able to severely injure Hong Lian's ancient true body after a few more months. Even though his strength was not as good as Hong Lian's, it did not mean that he would lose. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not have that much time to waste with Hong Lian. As the saying goes, a long night is fraught with trouble. If he drags on for too long, unforeseen events would inevitably happen. Perhaps the Light Ant clan would receive reinforcements, or perhaps Hong Lian would also destroy all the seals of heaven and earth in this place and escape. Ning Fan had been fighting Hong Lian all this while, not giving her the chance to destroy the seals of heaven and earth in this place. However, the shockwaves from their battle were extremely violent. Just the impact of their attacks was enough to continuously weaken the seals of heaven and earth in the surroundings. I have to admit that you are very strong. Even though your strength is pitifully weak, your techniques have offset the gap between our strength. It seems like it is a little unrealistic for me to kill you with my own strength. Since that is the case, I might as well destroy your seals of heaven and earth and reconnect with heaven and earth. Hong Lian was tired of fighting. The fact that Ning Fan's injuries were healed in an instant was a heavy blow to her. She knew that if she continues to fight against Ning Fan, she would definitely be the one to suffer losses. Thus, she decided to use her last trump card as well. Lotus Seed Clone appear. All of a sudden, she summoned 3 Lotus Seed clones and launched a pincer attack at Ning Fan. She was trying to use her clones to slow Ning Fan down. These 3 Lotus Seed clones only had the cultivation base of Half-Saint Realm experts. Their strength was far inferior to the Half-Saint Realm Split Saint Realm expert who self-detonated earlier. However, it was still possible for them to slow Ning Fan down during a surprise attack. As long as the 3 clones could hold Ning Fan back for a moment, she would be able to destroy the seals of heaven and earth in this place and reconnect with the world. Then, she would be able to kill Ning Fan with the power of all 13 vertebrae. Summoning clones, huh? Ning Fan sneered. He had long been prepared for this trick of Hong Lian's. Almost at the same time when the 3 Lotus Seed clones appeared, Ning Fan gave an order. 4 ferocious undying ghost soldiers tore the hollow space apart and showed themselves, surrounding Hong Lian once again. When he summoned the ghost flower of the netherworld to heal his wounds, he had also secretly summoned the undying ghost soldiers. They hid in the boundless hollow space and were on standby. It was not necessary to summon ghost soldiers openly. Sometimes, it would be more effective to use ghost soldiers to launch sneak attacks. Corpse Slave King. You actually turned your Corpse Slave King into a ghost soldier. Moreover, you even have a Half-Saint Realm subordinate who is a soul-sucking tree. This time, Hong Lian really felt that something was amiss. Putting aside the soul-sucking tree, the existence of the Corpse Slave King really frightened her. As one of the leaders of the Light Ant clan, it was impossible for her not to know how strong the Corpse Slave King was. Even a monster with such blood and chi was killed by Ning Fan and turned into a ghost soldier. Could she really defeat him? Ah! 3 blood-curdling screams suddenly resounded. Surprisingly, Ning Fan had used the immemorial Rainy Night illusion technique to instantly kill the 3 clones of Hong Lian. The clones of Half-Saint Realm experts might be able to slow down the other Half-Saints, but they could not slow down Ning Fan. As long as they are not Half-Saints, it would not be difficult for him to kill them. Yu actually killed 3 Half-Saint Realm experts with a single move. This is impossible. Half-Saint Realm experts are not trash. Even I can't do this. Hong Lian was shocked by Ning Fan's ferocious method of killing them in an instant. Her heart began to feel cold. She felt that Ning Fan had concealed his true strength. In the previous battles, he had purposely pretended to be weaker than her. Now, he finally revealed his true strength. Hong Lian, I've said it before. You are my human cauldron. You can't run away. After eliminating the 3 clones of Hong Lian, Ning Fan turned around and attacked her together with the 4 ghost soldiers. One day later, Hong Lian's soul armor was shattered. Another day passed. Hong Lian's second stage true body was forced back to the first stage true body. Then her first stage true body was also destroyed. Hong Lian, who was on the verge of death, no longer had the strength to resist Ning Fan's capture. She was then locked in a wooden cage by the divine tree that he summoned. Hong Lian realized with grief and indignation that Ning Fan still had a trump card which he had only used at the very last moment. Lord Realm. This was definitely a Lord Realm Wood Dao law. Otherwise, even if she was on the verge of death, she would still be able to break this wooden cage. This cage doesn't even have a magic technique, alright. It's just that its body is unusually tough. Despicable. Along with Hong Lian's curses, Ning Fan planted layers of restrictive spells on her and locked her in the profound Yin world. The second quasi-saint human cauldron was finally in his hands. Another quasi-saint human cauldron has been captured. The old ancestor of Lei Zhe no longer knew how to describe his current feelings. How long has it been? How many quasi-saints of the Light Ant clan had Ning Fan defeated? Are the quasi-saints who stood at the peak of the Dharma-ending era so weak in front of Ning Fan? This young man really doesn't seem to be a great cultivator from the ancient times. However, his strength is really strong. Without any tricks, he only relied on various methods to beat the high and mighty Hong Lian to the brink of death and capture her alive. What else could the old ancestor of Lei Zhe say? He knew that he would not be able to do such a thing. This is great. Brother Hero has captured Hong Lian, that dog thief. Now, we can go deeper into the spine to adventure. The sludge monster cheered excitedly. Deeper into the spine? What do you mean? You seem to know this place very well. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. He returned to his original form and landed on the ground. Then he asked the sludge monster. Brother Hero doesn't know that this is where the spine of the Lord Ant is located? Then how did you barge into this place to save me? The sludge monster widened its large and adorable eyes in bewilderment. If I tell you that I barged into this place by accident, would you believe me? Ning Fan smiled bitterly. Could this be what those virtuous saints mean by doing good deeds without leaving their names behind? Brother Hero has come all the way here to save me, but you don't want to get my gratitude. That's why you told me a white lie. The sludge monster admired Ning Fan even more now. It began to imagine Ning Fan's great personality crazily. Forget it. You can think whatever you want. First, tell me where exactly is this place. Also, don't call me Brother Hero anymore. All right, Brother Hero. Understood. Brother Hero. My name is Feng Zhao. The Feng, from Feng Lai, and the Marsh, from Feng Lai. So, you just want to emphasize that there's a Feng Lai Yi, right? Comparing yourself to a noble and beautiful phoenix. This lump of sludge is really narcissistic. Get to the point. Oh, this place is called the 13 Vertebrae. Speaking of these 13 vertebrae, it's a long story. Then make it short. All right. Brother Hero. Understood. Brother Hero. Chapter 1203. The sludge monster solemnly pulled Ning Fan to the side and activated a soundproof barrier. Then she told Ning Fan everything about the 13 vertebrae. There was a reason why she was being so careful. It was because the 13 vertebrae were related to too many secrets of the true world. It was not suitable for many living beings in the illusory dream world to know about it. According to the legends, there were 3 real worlds outside the illusory dream world: the mortal world, the defying earth realm, and the mountain and sea realm. The mortal world was the territory of the Tai Tsang Jieling. The defying earth realm was constantly embroiled in wars between immortal kingdoms. Even the former Zido immortal domain could not unite the entire defying earth realm. The mountain and sea realm was the dojo of the ancient sacred sect. The Tao Soul clan in the world was ruled by the ancient sacred sect. It was the strongest force among the 3 great true worlds. The story of the Lord Ant happened in the mountain and sea realm. A long time ago, the light ants did not exist in the world. Then, a lucky ant was enlightened by Saint Defire, the ancient sacred sect. Due to his gratitude for the saint's kindness, he followed him and performed countless meritorious deeds for the saint. In the end, with his meritorious deeds, he was reborn and became a saint. Most of the saints who became saints through virtue were weak. However, there were also exceptions. This ant was one of them. She had only undergone 74 nirvanas and reached a profound cultivation base of 10 eras. Such progress had amazed the entire true world. Based on her cultivation speed, as long as she did not make any mistakes, it was highly possible for her to break through the incipient saint realm and step into the nirvana saint realm before undergoing 1,000 nirvanas. This ant was highly likely to become an inspirational example of a saint of virtue who changed his fate. However, fate played a huge joke on her. Somehow, she provoked a nascent soul realm junior who claimed to be the strongest nascent soul realm cultivator in all of history. After that, she was suppressed by this nascent soul realm junior for 10 eras. This ant was the Lord Ant, the founder of the Light Ant clan and the Sacred Ant sect. The nascent soul realm junior was the omniscient old man. This incident had made the omniscient old man infamous in the true world. Of course, The cultivators of the illusory dream world in Ningfan's world were unlikely to know about the omniscient old man's name because the omniscient old man suppressed the Lord Ant after the Purple Doe immortal domain was destroyed and the illusory dream world was isolated from the rest of the world. The sludge monster narrated the story of the all-knowing old man vividly, especially the battle where the all-knowing old man suppressed the Ant Lord. She even described it as a shocking battle that destroyed the era of samsara. She tried to see a hint of shock on Ningfan's face, but unfortunately, there was none. Ningfan actually listened to her story with a calm expression. No, it would not be accurate to say that his face was calm. Ningfan still had a hint of surprise on his face. However, that surprise was just too little. His facial expression only changed for a little bit before he calmed down again. This wasn't normal, too abnormal. Normal people would be shocked to the point of sweating when they heard that a nascent soul cultivator had defeated a sage. Brother Hero, aren't you shocked to hear that a nascent soul suppressed a saint? Aren't you surprised? The sludge monster was speechless. It is a little shocking. You're lying. Well, Ningfan was indeed not that shocked. He had seen ancient chaos martial emperor and the omniscient old man. The pressure that the omniscient old man gave him was no less than ancient chaos martial emperor. He already knew that ancient chaos martial emperor had killed sages and he did it more than once. Therefore, he was not too shocked about the incident of the omniscient old man suppressing a sage even though he was a little surprised. He had seen the primogenitor of the wilderness, desolate Saint Dao Man Shan. He had received immortal sovereign Zido's teachings many times. He had fought against the underworld and even fought side by side with the desolate Saint Kai Wei of the underworld. He was the barbarian god of the barbarian race. Once he enters the true world, he would have the right to command the sages of the barbarian race. He was one of the few divine beings in the world, and he was also the father god of a generation. If it was the era of gods, the identity of the father god would be comparable to that of a desolate saint. Unknowingly, Ningfan's knowledge and experience had reached an extremely high level. There were already too few things that could shock him. What happened after that? Ningfan asked calmly. The sludge monster did not appreciate Ningfan's surprised expression and was a little disappointed. However, when she thought about it again, she realized that her brother Hero had such a calm and steady temperament. Shouldn't she be happy and worship him? Thus, in the blink of an eye, she worshipped Ningfan even more. Her eyes sparkled with even more stars as she explained. Later on, my master divided the Ant Lord's physical body into 10 parts and suppressed them in 10 different samsara realms. I also don't really understand these third-step suppression methods. I only know one thing. The part of the physical body that is being suppressed in this samsara realm is the Ant Lord's spine and flesh. The Radiance Ancestor Earth Abyss is a world of flesh and blood that is constructed by this spine and flesh. Each layer of the Earth Abyss is a different spine. The first 12 layers of the Earth Abyss are 12 different spines. The 13 spines that we are currently in can be considered as the 13th layer of the Earth Abyss. The funny thing is that the ancestors of the Light Clan in the illusory dream world thought that the Radiance Ancestor Earth Abyss was some kind of heavenly paradise. They once built a country here and even established the Light Clan. Later on, they probably found out the truth and were so scared that they did not dare to stay here anymore. They moved their entire clan away from this place. The experts of the Light Ant Clan are even more ridiculous. They are actually just our master's toys. However, they have no idea about this at all. They don't even know our master's true strength, and they don't know that our master had suppressed the Ant Lord who they conferred as a god. Something is not right. There seems to be something wrong. You mean Senior Omniscient only suppressed the Ant Lord after the Purple Doe immortal domain was destroyed? Ningfan suddenly frowned and asked. That's right. But you just said that the ancestors of the Light Clan first discovered this Radiance Ancestor Earth Abyss and then established the Light Clan? That's right. Is there a problem? There's a huge problem. As far as I know, the Light Clan is one of the 10 great secret clans in this illusory dream world. This clan had already existed long before the Purple Doe immortal domain was destroyed. The two things that you mentioned don't match up at the same time. The time really did not match up. After the Purple Doe immortal domain was destroyed, Senior Omniscient suppressed the Ant Lord, and then the ancestors of the Light Clan established the Light Clan on the remains of the Ant Lord. All of these things did not match the fact that the Light Clan had always existed in the Purple Doe immortal domain. This was a contradiction in the logic of time. So, Brother Hero is puzzled about this matter. What is there to be puzzled about? Something like the logic of time is just an illusion. Illusion? What do you mean? When Brother Hero is sleeping, have you ever had a dream? Do the things that happen in your dreams always go against common sense? Are you in the illusory dream world right now? Then that's it. The illusory dream world is just a dream. Searching for the logic of reality in an illusory dream is the wrong way to go. Searching for the truth in an illusory dream. Ning Fan's frown deepened. He felt that what the sludge monster said contained the true face of the illusory dream world, but he could not really see through it. Actually, I don't really understand it as well. I only heard it from my master. My master often told us some strange theories. He once said that time and space are just a means to understand the world, but they are not the true face of the world. This world could become a big universe, or it could become a small mustard seed. This reincarnation cycle could last for thousands of years, or it could be as short as a dream. In the microscopic world where our eyesight is hard to see, there are microorganisms that are born and destroyed in a flash. We only observe their life and death for a moment, but we don't know that in the eyes of the microorganisms, their life might also be thousands of years. We think that after we cultivate the Tao, we can live forever. But in the eyes of those cultivators of a higher realm, our long life might only be a moment of life and death in the microscopic world. Isn't it very hard to understand? Actually, I don't really understand it. Our eternal life is just a moment of life and death in the eyes of others. Ning Fan's face was filled with confusion. He had comprehended some of it, but he still could not comprehend most of it. At this moment, Ning Fan truly felt the gap between him and the omniscient old man. It was so close that he could touch it. That was the gap between him and the omniscient old man. It actually made Ning Fan feel a sense of defeat that he had not felt for a long time. The omniscient old man's Tao comprehension realm was really too profound. Whether it was the guidance he gave him previously or the few words he heard from Little Mud this time, all of them made Ning Fan feel like he was looking up to a lofty mountain. Omniscient old man. Since this person dares to use this name, he must have some capabilities. He is not being arrogant. I really can't see the world that Senior Omniscient Old Man has seen, Ning Fan said regretfully. The sludge monster actually heard a trace of desolation in Ning Fan's tone of defeat. This sigh was the sigh of a cultivator towards the boundless Tao. The sludge monster's heart was like glass in an instant. All of a sudden, she felt sorry for her heroic brother. Weep, weep, weep. At first, she wanted to ask Ning Fan for a small favor. However, at this moment, she could not bring herself to ask him no matter what. My life has a limit, but my knowledge is also boundless. If there is a limit, there will always be a limit. Ning Fan suddenly chuckled and swept away the gloominess in his heart. Life was limited, but knowledge was infinite. Using a limited life to pursue infinite knowledge would definitely result in failure. This was Ning Fan's true nature. After all, he was only defeated for a moment. After all, he was not a person who truly pursued the Tao wholeheartedly. The reason why he cultivated the Tao was not to be smarter than others, let alone to understand the true appearance of the world. To him, whether the world was real or not was not important at all. It was also not important what the Tao was. In fact, he did not want anything else from the word Tao. The Tao was just a tool in his hands to protect the warmth behind his back. Ning Fan did not know that it was exactly this disposition of ignoring the Tao that made him closer to the Tao than anyone else. Ning Fan did not try to pry out the great secrets of heaven and earth from the sludge monster. He was not interested. He was only interested in the meat soup that the sludge monster cooked. Now that he had accidentally rescued the sludge monster, he naturally would not waste the chance to drink the soup again. Rustled. Ning Fan suddenly patted his storage pouch. Then, countless ant seeds fell to the ground like raindrops, piling up into a small hill. Those were the ant seeds that he obtained from killing the corpse slave king. There were more than 1,400 of them. The corpse slave king was the collective form of small corpse slaves. After killing it, tens of thousands of ant seeds were produced. Unfortunately, the situation was too chaotic at that time. Ning Fan could not collect all of the ant seeds at all. He could only collect a small portion. He could only blame the fact that the explosion he caused was too terrifying and too sudden. In a moment of desperation, he still had to escape with old ancestor Lei Zhe, who was a burden. He was already lucky to be able to collect 1,400 ant seeds. The rest of the ant seeds that he did not manage to collect in time had already been destroyed in the explosion. It was really a pity. Speaking of which, if he did not cause that explosion, he would not have been able to eliminate the corpse slave king and obtain so many ant seeds in one go. Wow! So many ant seeds! Brother Hero is really amazing. You actually got so many of them. The sludge monster's admiration towards Ning Fan continued to rise. If it's convenient, can you make me some more soup? After finding out that this place was the world of the Lord Ant's spine, Ning Fan was no longer in a hurry to leave. This place seemed to be a good place to cultivate the purity of his magic power. Wasn't this the reason why he ran out with the sludge monster? As for whether the Light Ant clan would come after him again, Ning Fan was too lazy to care about that. If the enemies come after him, he would just have to fight them again. It's convenient. Of course it's convenient. Brother Hero is my savior. I'm willing to make soup for him for the rest of my life. Shame. She actually said such bashful words. Could it be that she has already fallen in love with Brother Hero? If Brother Hero asks her to repay him with her body, will she obey him or not? Good boy. Ning Fan patted the sludge monster's head lovingly as if he was patting a pet. Ning Fan was really looking at this lump of mud as if he was looking at a pet. Ever since he cultivated the communication technique of all living things, he was especially sensitive to the kindness and malice of all living things in the world. At this moment, the sludge monster was obviously not hostile towards him at all. That was why he dared to pat its head and really had the thought of keeping it as his pet. If the sludge monster was plotting against him just now, he would certainly not touch it like this. However, the sludge monsters didn't think so. Brother Hero touched her head and killed her. Her muddy heart was about to leap out of her muddy throat. There seemed to be a million little deer running around in his heart. What to do? She was so happy. She was so happy just by patting his head. But then she started to worry. Brother Hero, are you going to boil all the ant soup? You drank so much ant seed soup in one go. Don't tell me it's too nourishing. She recalled the incident where Ning Fan went to find the human cauldrons to vent his excessive nourishment. It's all right. I'll just endure all of it. When Ning Fan recalled that his body had almost exploded due to the nourishment, he also felt a little embarrassed. However, that was because he hadn't made any preparations beforehand. If he had made sufficient preparations, he wouldn't have been afraid no matter how much he replenished himself. He had plenty of cauldrons. Moreover, he had just caught 2 quasi-sage cauldrons. Wasn't it perfect for him to use them to release the medicinal power? Should I do that? If it was a quasi-sage cauldron, the effect of releasing the medicinal power should be very good. At the same time, it could also increase his cultivation level. However, will there be any risks if I rashly pluck the quasi-sage cauldrons? Ning Fan frowned. Just now, when he sneakily attacked Hong Lian with his bewitching technique, she managed to break free from it. The bewitching technique was not omnipotent. During the process of plucking the 2 female quasi-sage cauldrons with his bewitching technique, if the 2 of them break free from his bewitching technique and something unexpected happens, it would definitely be extremely dangerous. He who was focused on plucking was the most relaxed one. If he really gets ambushed by the 2 of them, he would certainly be doomed eternally, or perhaps, I should only pluck the 2 female quasi-sage cauldrons after I'm fully prepared to avoid any unexpected incidents during the plucking process? Forget it. What's the point of thinking so much? I'll drink the soup first and cultivate the purity of my magic power. Ning Fan was drinking the soup and cultivating in the 13th level of the Earth Abyss. On the 12th level of the Earth Abyss, in the clan hall of the Light Ant clan, the great priestess of Mother Een was furious. She was cursing revered Eagle Yang, who had just escaped to the clan's territory. How could she not be angry? It was all because of this idiot who insisted that Ning Fan was a great cultivator from the ancient times, causing the entire Light Ant clan to hesitate and fear, causing them to miss the best opportunity to encircle and annihilate Ning Fan. When Ning Fan killed the corpse slave king, the great priestess of Mother Een finally estimated Ning Fan's true strength. He was definitely not a great cultivator from the ancient times. In fact, he was even weaker than the corpse slave king. However, everything was too late. Ning Fan actually used a teleportation technique and escaped from the range of the explosion. She had no idea where he went. Besides, her Heaven's Will Red Name technique could no longer lock onto Ning Fan. It was as if Ning Fan had used some kind of technique to block her senses. She wanted to chase after Ning Fan, but she did not know where to go. If it wasn't for Eagle Yang who spread the rumor, how could the dignified Holy Ant sect of the Light Ant clan give Ning Fan so many chances to kill so many experts? How could he possibly escape? Great priestess, you have to believe me. That Devil Lord is really a great cultivator from the ancient times. He captured Her Highness Hua Hua with a single strike. He killed the corpse slave king with just a single explosion. You weren't there at that time and you didn't see the destructive force of the explosion. Otherwise, you would definitely believe in this matter and make the same wise decision as me by choosing to retreat. Revered Eagle Yang, who was scared out of his wits by Ning Fan, was still defending himself, insisting that Ning Fan was a great cultivator from the ancient times. Great Priestess Een had told him over and over again that Ning Fan was not a great cultivator from the ancient times. However, he did not believe her. He did not believe her. Mother Een laughed out of anger. She felt that all of her explanations were like chicken talking to a duck. Seeing that revered Eagle Yang was still boasting about how terrifying Ning Fan was, her elegant face finally revealed killing intent. You shut up. I'll say it again. That young man is not a great cultivator from the ancient times. He doesn't even look like a true quasi-saint realm being. Even though he has a lot of magic power, there's something wrong with him. If you dare to spread the rumor and disturb people's thoughts again, I will certainly punish you even if you are a quasi-saint realm being from my clan. Great priestess, you're good in everything but you're just too stubborn. You believe too much in your Heaven's Will Red Name technique. Is the Heaven's Will really not make a mistake? Even if we use the Heaven's Will to sense something, there will still be mistakes. I only believe in what I see with my own eyes. I've witnessed the scene where the corpse slave king was killed. I've also witnessed the atrocious act of that Devil Lord capturing a quasi-saint realm being with a single move. That Devil Lord is too powerful. He's really too powerful. I told you to shut up. Didn't you hear me? Mother Een was too lazy to talk nonsense with revered Eagle Yang anymore. She suddenly flicked her sleeve. A gust of chilly wind was produced from her wide sleeve and blew towards revered Eagle Yang's face. At first, revered Eagle Yang wanted to continue arguing for himself. However, as soon as he saw Priestess Yin's attack, his expression changed drastically. How would he still dare to speak any more nonsense? However, he could not escape. As soon as the chilly wind came into contact with him, countless cold and transparent runes were produced. The runes emitted an endless suction force. No matter how revered Eagle Yang resisted, he could not break free from that suction force. In the end, revered Eagle Yang, who was a first-level quasi-saint, was forcefully sucked into her sleeve world by Priestess Yin's chilly wind. He faced the wall and reflected on himself. Calm down. You were just frightened by that kid's appearance. Once you wake up, you'll realize that I'm right. High Priestess Mother Een seemed to be talking to herself, but also seemed to be talking to Venerable Eagle Yang in the sleeve world. Upon seeing the High Priest grab a sage-to-be, the other experts of the Light Ant clan in the hall lowered their heads in awe, not daring to look directly at the High Priest. This was the intimidation brought about by absolute strength. Among the crowd, there was only a woman who was dressed in emperor clothes. She raised her head and looked at Mother Een with a serious expression. Damn it! This woman is already so strong. She restrained Ing Yang with one move. How am I going to compete with her for the position of the queen ant? How am I going to take revenge for what happened in the past? This woman was one of the 4 successors of the Light Ant Clan's queen, dethroned Emperor Hua Mang. Humph! Subduing a demi-saint in one move? Was that a big deal? I can do it too, but what can I do? I'm still at the bottom of the 2nd stage quasi-sages. It was the same for that brat. Although his methods were strange and difficult to guard against, his true strength might not be that high. Stop believing in Yang's nonsense. Our top priority now is to find out where that brat is. Then we will kill him and save Hua Hua. The Ant Queen selection was around the corner. As a competitor of the Ant Queen, Mother Een actually did not want to save Hua Hua. However, this matter concerned the reputation of the entire Light Ant clan. She had no choice but to save him. Only by killing Ning Fan and saving Hua Hua could she slightly wash away the humiliation that the Sacred Ant clan had suffered. The glory of the Sacred Ant clan was above everything else. However, where should I go to kill Ning Fan? The red name of Tian Yi's senses had been blocked. Where is that brat now? Could he have already escaped from the abyss? If that's the case, while Mother Een was pondering, she suddenly received an urgent report from outside the hall. An armored soldier of the Light Ant clan stumbled into the hall. High Priest, my lords, something bad has happened. Something has happened to the forbidden area. Something has happened to the 13 vertebrae. Lord Hong Lian, who is in charge of the 13 vertebrae, has been captured. She is contacting us using a soul voice secret technique, asking us for help. She hopes that we can kill our way into the 13 vertebrae and save her. What? Hong Lian was in charge of the 13 vertebrae. How could she be captured? Could it be? Mother Yin's beautiful face was filled with rage. She thought of the only possibility. Ning Fan. It must be this brat. This brat actually did not run out of the abyss. Instead, he somehow broke into the 13 vertebrae and even captured Hong Lian, the guardian of the 13 vertebrae. He actually captured the 2nd successor of the Ant Queen. Is he trying to trample on the Sacred Ant clan's reputation? This brat deserves to die. He deserves to die. Pass down my order. All experts above the Immortal Emperor realm are to follow me and kill our way into the 13 vertebrae. We must eliminate this devil. Mother Een said with hatred. It's not possible. Great Priest, you must have forgotten that once the Ant Queen selection begins, we members of the Light Ant clan won't be able to enter the forbidden area below the 13th level unless it ends. We can't pass through the bloodline gate at all. In other words, even if we know that the devil has broken into the 13 vertebrae, we can't chase after him. The other experts of the Light Ant clan immediately wore a troubled expression. Who did not want to kill Ning Fan? Who did not want to kill this brat and wash away the humiliation of the Sacred Ant clan? However, the problem was that they could not enter the 13 vertebrae. As the most forbidden area of the Light Ant clan, was the 13 vertebrae a place where they could enter whenever they wanted. Usually, the conditions to enter the 13 vertebrae were already extremely strict. Especially now, it was a special period where the Ant Queen selection of the Light Ant clan was being held. No one from the clan was allowed to enter the 13 vertebrae. Only outsiders were allowed to enter and exit freely. This brat is actually so cunning. He calculated that we wouldn't be able to pass through the bloodline gate and enter the 13 vertebrae during this special period. That's why he purposely hid there. Damn it. Damn it. Mother Een was so angry that her face turned pale. This devil dares to challenge the dignity of our Sacred Ant clan, but he doesn't dare to fight us head-on. He only knows how to hide. How despicable. How shameless. A bald quasi-saint of the Light Ant clan scolded angrily. You guys are too naive. It's still fine if this devil is just hiding in the 13 vertebrae. However, I'm afraid that he is going there to steal the treasure. That treasure is the foundation of our clan's prosperity. If it is stolen by an outsider, the consequences will be unimaginable. Another hunchbacked quasi-saint began to worry. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed drastically. The great priestess of Mother E no longer cared about killing Ning Fan to vent her anger. She was also a little worried about the loss of the 13 vertebrae. However, she still shook her head and said, "Impossible. It's impossible for this brat to know about the existence of the indestructible soul of our clan. It's also impossible for him to know the method to steal the indestructible soul of our clan. Even if he knows the method, he doesn't have the ability to steal it. That's the indestructible soul of a saint. Even if it's just a strand of a scattered soul, it's impossible for a second-step cultivator to obtain it. It's better to be safe than sorry." Before the incident, who would have thought that this brat would be able to capture Her Highness Hua Hua and General Hong Lian and kill the corpse slave king? The hunchbacked quasi-saint said seriously, "Alright, what brilliant plan do you have? Just say it. You should know that during this special period, our Light Ant clan can't enter the 13 vertebrae. I don't have any brilliant plan, but I do have a vicious one. Even though we can't enter the 13 vertebrae, aren't Her Highness Hua Hua and General Hong Lian still in there?" The hunchbacked quasi-saint suddenly chuckled strangely. "What do you mean? They have already been captured by the enemy. What else can they do? So what if they are captured? As long as the two of them are willing to sacrifice themselves, it's not difficult to eliminate this devil." "You mean a devil lord who was lucky enough to capture 2 quasi-saint human cauldrons. What will he do?" Even if he doesn't have the interest in this aspect, it doesn't matter. I've long heard that Her Highness Hua Hua is proficient in the soul sound bewitching technique. If this devil doesn't take the bait, I'll just lure him in. It's not difficult at all." Achoo! Ning Fan, who was drinking the soup in the 13 vertebrae, sneezed for no reason. Then, he continued to drink the soup. He did not know that someone was plotting against him, and he did not care. He did not know that the Light Ant clan was currently in a special period and they could not enter the 13 vertebrae. Thus, while drinking the soup, he was still keeping an eye out for other experts of the Light Ant clan who might come. Last time, he drank 70 bowls of the ant seed soup and he could not endure the medicinal power. He nearly exploded from the nourishment. Obviously, it would not be the same this time. Every time he drank a bowl of ant seed soup, he would use a special bewitching technique to dissolve the heat that kept surging up from the bottom of his dantian. In this way, the side effects of the ant seed soup were greatly reduced. He drank 200 bowls of ant seed soup in a row before he could no longer stand the nourishment in his body. He still had to vent. Of course, this time he was prepared. It wouldn't be as terrifying as having to vent for 3 days. "I'll be back soon. I need to solve some problems." Ning Fan instructed the sludge monster and planned to enter the profound Een world. The sludge monster blushed. Of course, she knew what problem Ning Fan was going to solve. Unfortunately, she no longer had the body of a great beauty. Instead, she had turned into a pile of smelly mud. Otherwise, she would also want to help Ning Fan. Black Devil's expressionless face turned slightly unhappy. The appearance of the sludge monster gave her a sense of crisis. She didn't care how many women Ning Fan had, but she cared about how many pets he had. Thus, she suppressed the shame in her heart and said straightforwardly, "Master, if you need to solve your problem, you can bring me along." Thus, without a shred of integrity, he brought Black Devil along with him and returned to the immortal cave in the profound Een world. With Black Demon around, there was no hurry to find another cauldron. But, however, before he could untie Black Devil's belt, an enchanting soul voice suddenly came from another direction of the profound Een world. It was the Palace of Repentance where Hua Hua and Hong Lian were imprisoned. What's going on? Why did those 2 women take the initiative to release their bewitching technique to tempt me over? Ning Fan frowned. What kind of attainments did he have in bewitching technique? Yet, he was nearly bewitched by the soul voice. The opponent's bewitching technique is really powerful. Then, here comes the problem. Why did these 2 captured quasi-saints take the initiative to tempt me? How did they use their cultivation base and release their bewitching technique when they were imprisoned? It was certain that they harbored evil intentions. What surprised Ning Fan was that the two women were actually able to deal with him secretly even though their cultivation bases were sealed. Sure enough, a quasi-saint should not be underestimated. Even if they were women who had become his captives, he still could not be careless. "Master, hurry up." Black Devil's face was filled with displeasure. It was very shameful for her to serve Ning Fan in her human form. Of course, she hoped that Ning Fan could end the battle as soon as possible. Unfortunately, her past experiences had proven that Ning Fan only knew how to fight a protracted battle instead of a quick one. It really gave her a headache. "Don't be anxious. Someone wants to use bewitching technique against me." Black Devil's face was filled with killing intent after Ning Fan said a few simple sentences. Who was it that actually dared to attack her master? They deserve to die. I originally didn't want to attack these two women so soon. However, since they took the initiative to court death, they can't blame me for being ruthless. Wait for me here. I'll be back soon. Ning Fan did not explain much to Black Devil. He just sneered and disappeared in a flash. Black Devil walked out of Ning Fan's immortal cave and tidied up her messy clothes. Then, she shook her head gently at the direction where Ning Fan flew. "Master, you're lying. You won't be back soon. You'll definitely take a very long time. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.